rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Proven fact. I got multiple reasons how that's the truth. And tonight's going to be one of those many reasons. But you are now tapped into Trap Talk 113. And this episode is brought to you by Tim Park of 213 Emeralds. Please do me a big favor and go follow Tim on Instagram. He's working with an amazing line of basins. Go figure. Okay. But more importantly, this guy's passion is true. And this guy has nothing but top quality animals. Good friend of mine. Tim, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode. And again, guys, please go follow Tim at Emeralds213 on Instagram. But what is good, everybody? We have a special episode indeed. Where am I? I'm in Alabama, inside the is this a basement? Where are we in?
It's kind of like a basement, yeah.
Okay, and what we are in Marcial Mendez's collection, basically. The newly, I mean, you remodeled this. You did a lot of work to this place.
We did, yeah.
It wasn't really move-in ready.
Was not move-in ready at all, no.
So, Marcial, one thing I do want to kind of start this off with is like the transition, right? You know, I've been talking about how I'm trying to find a house and stuff like that. And I'm dreading that move. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm excited to move, but then I'm like dreading because of the possibilities of what may not go for you. What are you doing, dude? There you go. Yeah. What may not go for you and whatnot. So let me ask you this: like, what was it like? You know, getting all your animals from one place and then moving it into here, especially when in a room that wasn't ready.
Yeah, the move wasn't too terrible. The move took about all in, I'm going to say like 3 or 4 solid days. I had a friend, multiple friends come over and help me, you know, because you see how hard it is. This is not an easy spot to access, carrying all these cages, all the racks, all the animals from, you know, down pretty steep flight of stairs to get in here. So the move was not that bad. The stressful part for me was having the collection split up between the old house and in this house. While I was doing all the renovations, getting this room ready, we were living here, but I, you know, kept my old house just to keep the snakes over there because I couldn't really show it with the snakes in it.
Right.
So just being back and forth and not having the snakes like right here, like I would have to like drive over to the house to feed them or clean, you know, every day, just back and forth. So that was kind of a pain in the ass. All while trying to do the renovations, get this room done as quickly as I can, you know, quickly as I could, so that we could sell our old house. That was the stressful part for me. The move was a pain, and I don't want to do it again by any stretch, but it was 3 or 4 days. The planning and the actual prep, you know, the work, all the renovations. That was like a 3-month process or something like that.
Right.
Just like, you know, I'd go to work. Then after work, I'd come home at, you know, get home 6 or 7, work snakes, work down here, do whatever till midnight, go to bed, do it. And then, you know, all weekend for 3 months in a row.
Shit.
To get everything, you know, moving ready.
Okay. So, but overall, like it worked out, you know?
Oh yeah. Now it's unbelievable.
Okay.
You know, finally kind of settled into the room, you know, got the feel of it. Took a while, you know, I like we were saying earlier, I did kind of a dry run before I moved the animals in here to make sure it was going to hold temperatures and, let the thermostats run for about a week. But then even then, when you move all the cages in here, that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit because they all have heaters and they start to heat up. So, you got to kind of keep your eye on it and tweak it for a couple weeks till everything kind of, equalizes.
And so just because I could tell you right now, a lot of people have questions on like what they can do to control the ambient heating in their room. So what is it that you use to control heat in this room and whatnot?
So I've used the same thing really since I started. It's just this oil-filled radiators. There's 2 of them.
Okay.
And they're 1,500 watts a piece, and they're hooked to an old school Helix thermostat, the kind that, like with the screwdriver, but they take this one's got a special wall box, and it can handle up to 1,500 watts, where most of your like, Herpstats and regular Helix, they can only take, I think, maybe 500 or something like that, 700.
Okay.
So those heaters will overload them.
Okay.
So it's a special Helix. I was talking to a guy because mine went out about a month or 2 ago. I had to send it back to him, to Helix, to Jeff, to get it fixed. And he said they're coming out with a new one pretty soon. That's going to be a 1,500 watt capacity, but have, all the bells and whistles of
a new Helix.
A new Helix. Yeah.
So Helix is still coming out with stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because Helix is like, I have some Helix thermostats, which shout out to Andrew Acevedo. He's like, yo, Helix is the truth because that's what he relies on.
Yep.
And, they're not like Herps 6s or anything, but at the end of the day, they're very reliable.
They work. They're reliable. Yeah. They're kind of a pain with the screw and having to use like a timer for the night drop and all that stuff. The Herpstats, when they came out, they had so many more features. Like the problem with Helix is they haven't done an update in, I don't know, 20 years or something. They haven't updated their product. The basic system that you buy now, I'm pretty sure is just almost like the same one that you bought 10 or 15 years ago. Whereas Spider Robotics has seemed to, they've evolved a little bit, added features, had, timers where you don't had the internal clock where you don't need a timer to control the night drop, all the different ramp up and ramp down features. So
now we were talking, I want to talk about your night drops and whatnot in eventually during the podcast, but as of right now, since being in this room, what has been the biggest, like either addition or like new scene for you? Because obviously this was not like this wasn't your setup at the old place, right? Like you added some
same cages, everything was the same, but the room was about half the size.
Okay.
So you see, now I've got room to work and room to breathe. It's comfortable to be in here. The windows, I've got way more windows in here. Not a lot of natural light comes in.
Yeah, I love
it's just a nicer place. You spend a lot of time in here.
Right.
So the other room, man, like, I had shit just from floor to ceiling all the way around the perimeter, and then like in the middle of the room, and like I had this one little narrow place where I could like roll my cart around.
Right.
And being in there for 3-4 hours at a time, it's like I start to get claustrophobic,
Right.
So having this room and having all this extra space, which, right now it's really nice because it's like I said,
you walk right through,
room to move.
I can people down here.
I can hang out, and if I needed to, I could cover the windows. I got plenty of room to put more cages in here eventually, if it comes to that.
I always, to me, you put me in a room, I'm like, wow, I can maximize the shit out of a room. But really, it kind of takes the fun out of a room.
It does,
it's like you walk in and you just see shit from floor to ceiling, and it's not really kind of making sense. That's kind of how my trap is right now, but only because the intentions of me knowing I'm going to move, you know what I mean? And I know I'm going to have way more space to lay out, but right now everything's like Tetris in my everything had turned, twist, like it's pretty nuts. But so let's kind of dip into as far as because you moved in here what time of the year?
Middle of winter, February.
Okay, so beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So you had plenty of stuff getting locked up at that time.
Yep.
If not already gravid.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so what was the big effect on your 2021 season by moving the way you did at the time you did and whatnot?
Yeah, it definitely affected it with the ball pythons. I probably had about 25% less clutches this year than last year. So basically everything, I had a really good year with the chondros, and everything that was gravid before the move was fine.
Right.
Everything that was still in process and still breeding that's what got affected. So the ball pythons, like, some were, I don't do ultrasound, but like, just, you can tell when they have follicles or getting ready. A lot of them reabsorbed. I say a lot, probably I had a 95% success rate last year with pairings with ball pythons. And this year is probably more like, 75, 60%.
Right.
And then,
which still isn't bad.
It's not bad. But then also during that time period when I was back and forth taking care of stuff, I wasn't there every day. I mean, I was there every day, but not like, I wasn't living there where the snakes were. So I was feeding things less, and my females weren't as, up to like weren't as fat as I would like them to have been for breeding. So my clutch sizes were a little bit smaller. So overall production is going to be affected this year, was affected this year by, like I said,
the move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I don't use an ultrasound. I mean, honestly, my goal is to get an ultrasound just because I don't know if you've seen the one Socrates uses. Shout out to Socrates. Socrates in the house right now. See him in the building. I appreciate
What's
you.
up, Sock?
But he has this thing called a butterfly ink. It's a ultrasound that hooks up to your phone. And my biggest thing is like I just don't want to have a big clunk piece of fucking shit that I'm like, I have to whip it out and plug it all
rolling around,
right? Like this thing is literally fits in your pocket, like it's nuts. But anyways, the reason why I feel personally like I would want to invest in ultrasound at this point is because I don't know my green tree pythons nearly as well as I know my ball pythons.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm like you. Like I could definitely tell that this female is either going to go the distance, or obviously she's doing something to show that she's probably just going to reabsorb or miss out, right?
Sure.
And with Sock, like he knows that with his green tree pythons. Like, I mean, he was able to determine a snake's ovulation by the size of the snake ovulation that it was gonna be a horrible clutch. And I was like, how the fuck do you know that? Well, the ovulation wasn't too big. And he started breaking it down. But I feel a lot of that is a lot of that knowledge if you have an ultrasound.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
You do.
But at the end of the day, like I said, if it was just my ball pythons, I mean, maybe just because I don't have enough experience with the chondros, and you've been doing the chondros with zero ultrasound for this entire time.
That's right. Yeah.
But let me ask you this: what would you feel like the biggest reasoning of you to this day still not having an ultrasound?
For me, it's just a time thing. Like it would be one more extra thing that I have to do,
another
it's
additive.
Like another chore to put on the list to do. And like my I'm not trying to, I could see it being a big tool if you were worried about spreading a male too thin,
right.
You would know exactly when to introduce him, where to, who to put him with. But, my collection's small enough that I'm not like, I'm not trying to breed a male to 20 females or whatever,
right.
or whatever. I mean, I have one that produced, even with no ultrasound, produced 10 clutches last year.
Right.
One male,
right.
Sired 10 clutches. So, maybe if you were trying not to spread your male too thin, I could see it. But for me, it's just a time thing, man. It's just one more. And it doesn't really change the outcome. It kind of helps you.
It's a cheat code. Like you basically know what the prediction is versus having to wait and just see.
That's right.
Which is cool. Like I feel like when you have a crazy project on the line and when you have a male that's being used to 7-8 different ball pythons.
Yes.
Which a lot of these heavy fucking hitters, they do that, but they know how to do that.
Right.
Like, Billy from Mutation Creation is like a pro at like 2 locks and done.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like he doesn't need anything more than 2 locks for the most part.
Okay.
And he knows it. You know what I mean? But it's because of the whole, like his habits, what he has, you know what I mean? So, I mean, to an extension, there is a way where you could use that ultrasound to a huge benefit, but it takes the research, the geeking out, the nonstop, like extra additive to where I actually like the suspense in a way, even though this year sucked. I had nothing till June and I thought I was just going to fucking tank. And this is after me talking shit all year, how ball pythons are easy. And I'm like, fucking walk on the park, try chondros, blah, blah, blah. And then literally I'm like sweating balls that it's fucking June and I don't have nothing. You know what I mean?
No clutches yet.
But it all came. Like you were talking about yesterday, how your shit goes late. And dude, all my shit just went super late this year. And this is only technically my second full year being a breeder. So, I mean, I could have many other awkward years to come. Like I don't really, especially being in Southern California, I told you I use the actual like ambient heating as my weather. I mean, as the temperatures.
Yeah, so you're kind of dependent upon the outside temperature,
right?
And here to a certain extent too. I mean, this room is pretty well insulated, but it's still not going to get cold here. I mean, you guys, this is about as cold as it's been all year.
Feels good.
Is when you guys
it is
got
pretty
here
chilly,
yesterday.
but it's not like East Coast chilly or like Maryland, like you were talking about. Or
no, this is kind of like the first. It's not even really a cold snap. It's like whatever, 45, 50 degrees.
Yeah.
But
it's perfect pairing weather.
That's right. Yeah. But kind of the same thing. I can't really start cooling things until about now.
Right.
Whereas other people, I know other parts of the country, they've already got pairings started for next year.
Yeah, I feel like there's some places like as soon as October hits, they're already like locking shit up. I'm over here waiting for I'm barely half done with my season and it's October. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's why it's like, your demographic is your demographic. Like what happens in your room happens in your room. And I remember in the beginning, what threw me off is how people have seasons and if she's not going at this point of the year, she's not going to go at all. Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, maybe with their collection because the way they have their shit seasoned, right? But for me, like I said, I had so many girls that I was like, dude, nothing. What do I do? Just keep pairing, and they eventually 2-3 months past what they did last year laid a clutch.
Oh, really?
Going 2-3 months late. You know what I mean?
That's pretty late.
That's pretty wild.
Most of the ones since I've started tracking it, all the dates for when they lay, most of them are within a month or so every year of each other.
Mine are
themselves.
Right. Mine are at least 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
I have don't get me wrong, some are within that month mark, but I have weird scenarios where they're literally going. Like, for instance, my last clutch of the year is scheduled to drop sometime December, but my last clutch of the year last year was October.
To drop or to hatch?
To drop. To drop. Not to hatch, to drop.
Yeah. So, same here. I had a clutch laid in October, and this year I'll hatch ball python babies in December, which is the latest ever for me. Last year I had some in November, but it's just seems to be getting progressively later every year, which is kind of cool because it's bad in a sense because everybody who's working in the same project as you, they're offering babies for sale sooner than you are,
or other way around, or I mean, you could be the one offering sooner.
It just depends. Yeah, right. But I mean, if your season runs late and they, then they get them before. But I also have babies in the part of the year when a lot of people don't.
Right.
So there's less, there's less competition.
Right.
And there's less animals, less babies available, I would say, at that time.
But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, there's not too many people even working with the ball pythons that you have. Like the ultra, you're very far advanced in your ultra mill game, which we'll talk about that. Just so you know, we're going to dip heavy into the ball pythons on this one. But yeah, like the ultra mill game, is something where people are still trying to even chase a single gene ultra mill, and you already have that going into double recessives. Like you have, which will, like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. But let me ask you this: do you kind of price or base off what you see on Morph Market? Is that how you price what you
just
hatch,
depends.
or how's that work for you?
Well, a lot of the stuff I have, I'm the only one on
nobody. You can't price nothing.
Can't price it. So I'll go to say to me, DG and Ultramel are kind of equivalent.
Right.
So I'll go for the most part. There's obviously some things that are real hot right now.
Right.
DG Clown obviously is crazy. I mean, Ultramel Clown is hot too.
Yeah.
But right now it seems like this year and last year DG is just kind of what everybody wants, But I'll go on Morph Market and look at DG and say, okay, here's a DG with 1 codon gene, or here's a DG with 2 codon genes, and they're charging this for it. And then so I'll kind of use that to base my prices on.
Because at the end of the day, a hot gene's a hot gene, so you can always compare one of your hot genes to another hot gene.
That's right.
Especially to another gene that's similar, like clown to clown.
Yeah, and it's also subjective. Like a snake is worth to one person that's got the things to plug in with it.
Right.
It's almost like you can't overpay for the right snake.
Right.
You could pay double or triple what somebody else would be worth to somebody else and still make your money back quickly if you have the right things to plug it in with.
Right. What's your opinion on some people who've never really invested in high-end projects, ball pythons, kind of being the ones to say stay away from high-end projects, only because there's really not a market for it. There's people who aren't willing to spend $5,000 on a ball python, which I feel like is very false. And I know you have customers who've easily been wanting to spend $5,000 with you on a ball pythons.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said, this is coming from people who've never put themselves in that bracket. But from your opinion, what do you feel about the high-end market side of the ball python game?
To me, to me, it's like the highest, my most expensive stuff sells the fastest.
It's less of a worry.
Yeah, it sells faster. There's more people that want it. You know, most of it sells before I can even put it on Morph Market because I'll post it on Instagram or, you know, put something on my Instagram. Somebody will message me,
right?
Or, you know, Facebook message me or whatever. Or they'll see, like I'll get a lot of stuff where like I'll post like say an ultramale het clown on Morph Market and somebody will use that ad and contact me and say, hey, do you have any ultramale clowns?
Right.
That aren't posted, you know, anything that's not posted yet. So, you know, in that case, they don't, you know, those are sold before I even have to really advertise them. Right. You know,
that's the best case scenario right there. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Shit. God damn it. My mind went south. Hold on. What were we just talking about right now? This always happens.
Ball pythons, high-end ball pythons.
Okay. But right after that, like what was the last thing we were talking about?
Just the Morph Market.
Yeah, more pricing.
Oh shit, I'm lost now.
How do I sell them?
We'll catch up. It'll hit my mind. I completely lost track. But anyways, okay. So let me ask you this then, okay? Because with the high end market, like, you know, God damn it, I want to go back to what I was going to say. Oh, I got it. Yes, I figured it out.
There we go.
Okay, so you and I, Chondro guys, we have Chondro buddies, right? And I can tell you right now, I've had fucking Chondro guys who at one point, I'm pretty sure, said, oh, another ball python more. Fucking wow. Now these motherfuckers are coming to me asking me if I wanted to get into the ball python game, what's a good, you know, first foot step forward to doing that, okay?
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, what's your opinion on somebody wanting to just now getting into the ball python game?
I would say it depends on what your experience level is and what your financial situation is and what your end game is. If you just want some snakes that you're not trying to make money, buy the stuff that you like. You know, I mean, you need to work with stuff that you like, regardless, even if the goal is to make money. Which, you know, if anybody gets into this, like has been said 100 times on your show and just talking to people, you won't last doing this
expecting money.
Well, that, and also if you do it only for the money, like you have to really like it, because
that just has to come after the love. You know,
that's
what I mean?
right.
Like,
you have to grind and get, you know, because, you know, it takes time to maintain all this.
Right. This was not all invested in one day. Like this was literally throughout years and years.
This is 25, 30
Red
years.
Back, holdbacks after holdbacks.
That's right.
Which is honestly, insane the way you have your holdbacks, you know, your plan for them is, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah. You know, and like, that's the thing, you know, I feel like there's people who have a good idea on what this ball python game could do for them, but they understand like the high end part of it, because yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I mean, quality ball python will sell, but you understand like where this game's at now. Like you have people like Justin Kabelka, you know, you have Levance, you have, you know, Ozzy, you have these people that are putting these examples out that are encouraging or just influencing someone to invest into a high-end project.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's not stopping. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, those guys are running, you know, I would assume multi-million-dollar businesses, you know, I mean, that's pretty crazy to think about. Breeding snakes is, you know, being able to generate that kind of revenue.
I mean, and I'm going to be quite frank with you, man. I'm in this room right now, and I asked you at dinner earlier that I'm sure there was a point where you probably looked at what you had, saw how good you were at producing what you're producing, and thought maybe you could do this as a full-time gig. You know, like maybe you don't need the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But you know, here you are, 20 plus years. I mean, and you still have the 9 to 5, and you're still grinding it out. So, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, what were some things that maybe held you back and made you not want to just say,
well, you know, I've got a family, and you know, it's a big step to just say, and there is a world where I could probably do snakes full time, but it's just a lifestyle thing. You know, could I live in this house and do snakes full time? Could I have done all this with snakes full time? Probably not. So, you know, the regular job provides the stability, you know, got 2 kids, you know, family, provide, you know,
less sacrifices.
Yeah. Less sacrifices. And, you know, I like to, you know, I want to have a nice house and, you know, have a nice car and, you know, go on trips and whatever. And if I was just breeding snakes, it'd be different.
But is there maybe a date near in your mind where you can maybe see that happening?
I mean, the end goal for me would be to retire at a decent age and only do this.
Right.
That's kind of the end goal. So I'm going to work as long as it makes sense, and which my day job has got its ups and downs. Some days are awesome, some days are not awesome.
Right.
Nothing would be as awesome as just coming down here and fucking with snakes all day. Even
having homies fly in and just doing podcasts.
Yeah, right. Or even as much as I hate to say it, even doing the rodents, as bad as it sucks, man. It's not. But it's better than other things. It's kind of a stress reliever to go out there and spend some time cleaning the rodents, and when you get done, it's like, man, this looks good in here.
Well, I don't really understand marathon runners or like rock climbers, but that's some intensity type therapy that is good for them. And people might look at people who clean rat shit and rat bins as like, you're fucking psychotic, but at the end of the day, it's therapeutic to you. And I remember it being therapeutic to me to a certain point until you're on a time crunch, you walk into your room and then there's a fucking flood.
Yeah,
god damn it. So 30 minutes before, we're in the 420 room, right? 30 minutes before, and you just had a hunt. You had something told you to go.
I told Matt, I was like, man, I need to go. I should probably go check on things one more time, because like when you don't go in the rat room for extended periods, bad things happen. And I'll be damned, man. I went in there and the whole 5-gallon water bucket had flooded a tub.
Yeah.
Luckily,
I didn't even know. I was all in there. I'm like, "What's up, Marcial?" You're like, "God damn it!" I was like, "Oh shit, water leak."
Yeah, and I just filled the buckets up earlier, so like when I fill them up, I always usually come back in like 10 or 15 minutes and just check them, make sure they're not leaking. And I so anyway, yeah.
So okay, since we're already talking about the rodents, huge fucking topic in my Patreon group. People who are wondering when should I start breeding rodents? When does it make sense to breed rodents? I even have people who breed rodents just because they know they could sell them on the side. But
right,
in your opinion, when do you feel is like it's a good move for someone to consider breeding their own rodents? And what's a good step to start getting that put in action?
I would say it depends on like the size of your collection. How reliable of a source do you have to provide to get rodents from?
Right.
Because the worst thing that could happen is, you build up a collection of snakes, you get a steady rodent supply, and then all of a sudden your supply dries up. The guy decides he doesn't want to fucking breed rats anymore, or he gets hit by a bus, or
anything can fucking happen.
Whatever.
Yeah,
your rodent source
Inventory's
dries up.
gone, yeah.
Then what do you do?
Right. And that's happened to me before. So.
Yeah, so that's something to consider. How much you spend a week, or what your rodent budget is for the year, how much you spend on rodents. It's definitely way cheaper to breed them yourself. It's the same thing. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's a time thing, though. Like,
right.
How much time do you want to spend? Do you want to invest to have the convenience of having live rodents, like 10 feet away up there?
Right.
Because as you can see, you imagine like cleaning that rodent room. That's a day. That's an 8-hour day.
That's a grind, man. Especially by yourself.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. By myself. I'm
that out.
I'm trying to get. I'm going to get a helper soon. Trying to, start putting the feelers out now. Just something.
Do you have any candidates, or do you know where somebody could submit an inquiry? Maybe you might have somebody buy. But I don't know. There are a lot of weirdos out there, so I don't know how you would interview that.
yeah. I don't know. I have had a couple people reach out to me, just over the years of that are local. That hey, do you do interns, or do you whatever? Because I'd like to come in and want to learn some shit.
Yeah.
So I would like to find somebody like that, but they need to be reliable, somebody that I could trust, because you got to give them. Basically got to give them the key to your house.
Yeah, and trust them.
And trust that they're not going to, not only are they, somebody stole a snake or whatever, that wouldn't take too long to figure out. But if they were careless and put the wrong snake or put the wrong snake in the wrong bin, or, whatever, there's just a lot of stuff that could happen.
Right.
So I've always, doing the one man show thing, which is how I've always done it. It's getting to the point now where it's almost to the size where in my, my 9 to 5, I've advanced in that career. So it's taken more, more brain power, more effort, more, it's a higher priority.
Right.
So then you got to look at, you have to just have to balance everything, you know, because you don't want to get overwhelmed. You don't want to take on more snakes, more rats, more snake work than you can do, because then it becomes not fun.
That's a good point. And I feel like one thing, if you're not careful, is you could overwhelm yourself with the rats. So like, how are you managing no overproduction, or like, how's that work for you? Like,
well, I haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know.
They're all pregnant
right now. I'm a bit overwhelmed. So I
overwhelmed right now.
I built the rodent room, and you know, Freedom Breeder has a 6-month lead time right now. So I built the room, moved everything in February, and I ordered my racks. I want to say I ordered them maybe in April or May. It was like 26 weeks, however many months that is, from when I paid them to when the racks showed up.
Right.
So I've had them now for probably about a month. And before I had just one rack. Now I've basically quadrupled, you know, instead of one, now I've got 4.
Okay.
And, you know, one of them is the big grow out.
Right.
Big grow out racks that'll hold, you know, you could probably put, you know, whatever. You could probably put 200 adult rats in that thing.
Right.
So I'm going from my normal routine, which was like 2 hours every couple, like once a week or whatever, 2 hours. I could go in there and that place would be like spick and span.
Right.
And now I'm not even up to full capacity with all these new racks that I have. And it's like 6 hours or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So,
and you mentioned the way your room's set up, you have to go up and down stairs to haul all your fucking new bedding and dirty bedding.
Yeah. So I mean, you saw, you know, you posted stories and you see how kind of like private it is down here. And
super private.
That's one of the things that we loved about the house. And, you know, it's good because, you know, no matter how cool your neighbors are, you don't necessarily
doesn't take much for them to bitch on a loose rat or something. You know, nobody wants.
Hey, the crazy neighbor's got a fucking snake farm next door. You know, so the privacy, having it down here and having it be down in this, you know, it's basically down in a hole from, you know, off street level.
Right.
But you know, whenever I go and buy, you know, 10, 50-pound bags of Missouri, I got to fucking lug them all down these stairs, you know? And then when I clean the rack, you know, when I clean the rats and dirty shavings and everything and big heavy ass bags of dirty rat shit, I got to carry it up a steep ass flight of stairs. So it's kind of, you know, get a workout in.
Right.
But it's physically, you know, if I'm older, I'm going to, you know, I don't ever want to move again. We're planning on staying in this house for forever. Like this is it.
It's long term.
Yeah. And so there's things I could do. I could put in like a dock lift out there, you know, where I could kind of just back up, put all my shit and then just lower it down. You know, that's something
someday
could do in the future, you know.
I could totally see him having that.
if I got, you know, get older and, you know, I'm not physically able to carry 100-pound bag of shit up a 20 flights, you know, 20-step flight, then, you know, just look at getting a little dock lift out here.
Yeah.
So, but that combined with, so the time is one thing, how much you spend on your rodents, you know, because it's expensive to feed this whole room if you buy them.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, I was spending, you know, a lot of, you know, Cold-Blooded Cafe. I would order some frozen stuff. I would get, you know, before I started doing live, I would get the stuff. I would buy everything that I could feed frozen. I would feed frozen. And then I had some things that would only eat live, or when you have ball python babies, you know, it's nice to always have the right size, the perfect size of what you're looking for. And
that's good when you breed your own shit, because you could just,
I can just
take and be like, oh,
go out there.
That's perfect.
Or if I just want to feed 2 or 3 and I don't want to feed everybody, I just go grab 2 or 3. It's not like I'm getting a delivery of 200 where I have to feed the whole room in one day, you know?
And I mean, the good thing about having your own rodents is like you could feed any snake anytime you want to. Like, you know, you have snakes that just don't eat with the others, but then all of a sudden it shows some sort of hunger fucking the next day or something. Right. And that's why I'm like, oh, let me go grab one real quick and toss it.
Throw it in.
And throw it in. Okay. So, I mean, with the rodent game, like, let's talk. I mean, do you feel like it's already having a benefit, elevating what you're trying to do here?
Definitely. Yeah. I'll be able to feed things more, because as convenient as it is having everything on, or having a lot of stuff on frozen, you know, you can't just do it what's the word I'm looking for? You can't just do it spontaneously.
No, fuck no. It has to be scheduled.
Yeah, you have to because
And you can't miss. I'm telling you, you miss. Like you said, you go a couple days without being in that room, and you're coming back to something.
Well, not only that, I'm saying like to feed frozen, you can't just decide, okay, I'm going to feed this one and go grab one and throw it in like 30 seconds. You have to thaw it out. So you have to like count up. Okay, I'm going to thaw, and you don't want to like they don't always all eat every time. So it's like, okay, I'm going to count how many. How many? I know. I need to throw out 25 smalls, 50 mediums, blah blah blah, and then okay, 75% aren't going to eat, and then so it's like that takes time to figure out. Then what I'll usually do is take them out of the freezer the morning I'm going to feed, let them thaw out all day. Inevitably, that's the day that I forget I have to fucking stay at work late, or forget that one of my kids has a game.
Whatever, any worst case scenario.
And then you come home, and then it's like 10 o'clock, and it's like, oh fuck, I got frozen, $100, $200 worth of rodents already thawed out. Like you're not going to put them back in the freezer, so that means you're up till 2 a.m. feeding shit. Yep. So there's definitely advantages to having your own rodent operation. The only negative is it's nasty. They stink. In the time. Yeah. I say they're nasty. They're nasty. They're nasty. You have to stay on top of it.
Don't get me wrong. I love the cleaning day when it's done. Like when that final fresh shavings and all that is pretty awesome, but it don't last long.
That's right.
And then you know what I mean. Then you're like, son of a bitch. And then, even the worst part, like what happened today is just the water leaks. And I feel like no matter what you're doing to give a rat water, any leak is possible. Like you know what I mean. Because you have people who do the bucket, like the 5-gallon bucket, but then you have people who run constant water on the hoses that go around.
So I've thought about that, and it would be nice to not have to fill water buckets up every couple of days.
Right.
But if you do have a leak, the shit just doesn't stop. You don't just get 5 gallons; you get 100 gallons.
Right.
And that that big ass tub that probably holds 100 gallons of water.
Swimming rats.
Or drown.
They'd be dead. Yeah, just floating. Drown.
So. It's
hold on, Jack.
It's definitely a trade-off, but to me, what I found, I'm still kind of playing with it. So I'm trying to keep pretty detailed notes now. Okay, I've got 100 rodents in this thing. How long is the water lasting me? So I know, if I'm going to go out of town, I'll know. Okay, I fill the bucket up. I can have 100 rodents in here, and it'll last a week, or 100 rodents in here, and it'll last 3 days or 4 days or whatever. So trying to figure that out. And I think what I'm going to do is end up just having 1 or 2 individual 5-gallon buckets for every rack. Right. That way, if you do have a leak, it's concentrated just to that rack and only to however much water's in the bucket.
Right. As
opposed to just, if it's a pressure system, it'll just go and go and go.
Now you breed rats and mice.
I do, yeah, both.
So what's on what? Meaning do you have an importance of what needs to be on mice and what needs to be on rats? How do you determine what snakes on what specific diet?
I pretty much start everything, all ball python babies. Well, I have in the past started all ball python babies, at least their first meal or two on mice. I just find that the mice move around more, and you give them a hop, more mature mouse.
9 out of 10 times they take it on the first time.
Yeah, take it on the first time. Yeah. It's got a lot of movement, and then maybe on the second or third time, I'll try a rat pup. And once they go to rat pups, then that's it.
Yep,
but and then the chondros and the emeralds, you got to have mice for them, because the rats are, even a pinky rat's too big for baby chondro.
Right. Exactly.
So you got to have the mice, for the pinkies for them. And for my, I have some small group of colubrids, my couple of sand boas, those things, a mouse is just the perfect size for them.
Right.
So I do the mice, but the mice are, I've had a couple different strains. The strain that I have right now is cool because they're colorful. They're fancy mice.
There's little dots on them. And
shit black and white or solid black, or I have these ones. I don't know anything about rodent colors or genetics, but they're have patches of gray and white and black.
Paradox type shit.
Yeah, one red eye, one brown eye, just weird.
Mutations.
So, but they have smaller babies. So before I had a laboratory strain, and they were just all straight up albinos, and they had more babies and bigger babies.
So they kept getting bigger, or they were just
the mice were bigger mice in general. Yeah, so like a retired breeder would be like the size of like a weaned rat or something like that.
right.
Whereas the ones that I have now, they stay a lot smaller, which could be good. You know, the pinkies are a lot smaller for baby chondros, which is good. Baby Amazons. So it's good to have the small pinkies too.
So let's just go down your regiment as far as species goes. So obviously ball pythons, hoppers, and get them on rat pups in about the third, fourth meal.
Yeah.
Now you've had great success this year with the emerald litter. Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you.
That's beautiful. So let's talk about those, man. Like, what was it like establishing those babies? And for the most part, what is, if best case scenario, what is it that you like to start your baby emeralds on?
So they've been fairly easy to get started. So there's a litter of 12, and all but 3 are eating. At least I would say 6 to 7 of them are eating like they're clockwork,
right?
Like they're
machines.
They're machines now. The other ones will eat like say every other time you offer, and then I've got 3 that I'm still working on. So I've assist fed them a couple times. Probably need to try again. But I start them with a live hopper also.
Okay,
because they like the movement.
Now you keep yours up. You keep yours over water, correct?
I do, yeah. So when I feed them, like if I'm going to feed them that evening, the morning before I go to work, I'll just dump all the tubs out and let them dry out during the day. So
what's your comparisons, I guess, to feeding the emerald babies to the chondro babies?
Oh, the emeralds are way easier. Yeah, way easier.
Meaning less hovering over them.
Exactly. Yeah, less man hours.
Right.
You just throw a live in there and you're done.
Because, for the most part, I feel like, a baby chondro doesn't want to hunt a pink little fucking
right. They want to eat a lizard, or they want to eat
something moving.
That's right.
And obviously they can only handle so much, right?
Yeah.
Because it's baby chondros really won't eat anything too big for them. Like if they feel like, oh, this is too much, that's sometimes a problem why they let go. Like they'll wrap and let go.
Right.
And that's why people resort to pinky heads sometimes.
Yeah.
For you, what's your routine? Like, you have a healthy chondro out the egg. What is it that you offer it first, and then where do you go?
I'll offer it like a day old pink. That's the first meal, and then once they get
mouse pink,
yeah, and then once they
heat it up or anything, or put like any kind of chick down?
I'll do chick down.
Okay,
automatically
for the first try.
First try, automatically chick down. Now there are a certain percent, I would say half average. Looking at some clutches, everyone eats. Some clutches, everyone's a fucking pain in the ass, right? But on the average, looking at 20,000 foot view, looking down, I would say half of them eat right off the bat, and would probably eat even with no scenting.
Right.
And then you've got another 25% that you hit them with the chick scent, and then they take it immediately. So instead of trying to like figure that out, I just do chick scent, all of them. And once they get established in their sight feeding, which means, you open the tub and they're like ready to eat, ready to jump on something.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they're scented or not. I've never had one like get stuck on chick scent.
Right. When they just switch over, it's that aggression basically.
That's right.
It's just like how, what you're talking about the hoppers, the reason why I feel like hoppers are so good with ball pythons, because it sparks that natural aggression and it gets them in that natural mode to where like they just, once they eat that first meal, they want to fuck up anything that's in that enclosure. You know what I mean? So, that's a good point. Now, obviously there's so many different scenarios of personalities of a chondro, baby chondro, the worst being the runners, right?
Oh, the worst.
Right. How often are you dealing with those? Is that like every clutch there's at least 1 or 2 runners? Is it kind of, is it sporadic for you? Like, how is it?
It's not every clutch, but it's 25% of babies are, I would say, are highly frustrating to get going. Like they just don't want to eat, no matter what you try, and you assist feed them. And it just comes down to it like everything else, a time thing.
Patience.
Like, because once they're established, you could feed 20 baby chondros in like 3 minutes.
Right.
Once they're sight feeding, just bam, bam,
right.
super easy.
But it's getting them to that point.
Getting them to that point could take, I sometimes, if I have a big clutch, so I'm trying to feed 10 or 12 babies for the first time, I'll be down 3 or 4 hours.
So, I mean, there's people literally saying they've spent 45 minutes, an hour over one fucking Neo. What's your feeling about that? I mean, do you normally just give it like 15 minutes and then break it off, or like, are you sitting there until your wit's end trying to get it to eat? Like, how do you really work that?
Read the animal. So
let's talk about one that just wants nothing to do with it, like a shy one, tuck in the head and just want nothing to do with you.
I won't keep pestering them if they're not like striking. I pretty much, or if they run,
you call it a day.
Call it a day, because they're not going to eat.
I've never turning that over.
Never had a runner like that you kept fucking with that then all of a sudden decides, okay, I'm going to eat. Right. So once you have
Socrates with my fucking weird little snake, which thank you so much, Socrates, for taking care of my retard Neo. But I mean, I guess there's scenarios, but still, like for the most part, once a snake's in that mentality, there's no use of just trying to force it at that point, right? Like, just kind of break it off.
Yeah, and I feel like it kind of makes them, they start associating the smell with negative. Like, they start associating the smell with, oh God,
shit,
something that's as bad, something bad's about to happen.
Food bad, which is food good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, you just kind of have to read the animal, but if they're striking and grabbing and dropping, I'll keep doing that as long as,
right.
I'll try that 10 times if they grab it and drop it, know,
because you're getting closer.
Yeah.
Right.
Eventually, if they grab and drop, there's a good, a high probability that a lot of those are going to eventually take off.
Right.
It's the runners and the ones that don't strike or hide their head, or those are the ones that are always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like you said, at a certain point, once the chondro is eating like a machine, right, it's pretty much all downhill from there. Like it's smooth sailing, because at that point they're eating regularly, they're eating like clockwork.
Yep.
So in that case, how are you like bumping up their meals? Like how do you work up a meal on a chondro?
Yeah, just kind of read them. I like to see a lump after they eat, not a huge, like where the scales are all spread out.
Just a little notice, like a little belt, like a beer belly.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I'll just size it appropriately. A good rule of thumb is as wide as the snake is at the widest part.
Right.
Like, so if you got a baby chondro that's that big around, you feed it a pinky that's that big around.
So match its body
girth.
Right.
That's kind of a good rule of thumb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, biggest thing, man, like I was telling you, there's so many new people, a lot, especially I would say mainly a lot of ball python people who are quickly wanting to, get into the chondro game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're being smart about it. I mean, they if it's one thing about chondros, if you listen to this podcast, there's so many horror stories out there, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this shit will break your heart immediately. But that's still not stopping some people, right? So, I mean, let's just say you were in a position where ball pythons was your foundation from the go, right? But you still had all this knowledge with the boreals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you were going to barely get into chondros, what would be your kind of your direction, or what would be like I don't know, I guess a game plan for you if you were just now trying to get into chondros?
It would be the same as it's been for every other species that I've gotten into, which is buy babies, raise them up, get to know them, get to your animals better when you've raised them since babies. I feel like when they're babies, they have they're more able to adapt to your new environment. Like if you take an adult, especially if you're moving it from like, let's just say you bought an adult from somebody that lives in New England,
right?
Like the climates could not be different. So even like, if that snake is 10 years old or 5 years old and it's accustomed to a New England climate and you move it to San Diego, that's a pretty big change, So an older animal, I don't think is as able to adapt to that as a neonate. So my advice is always buy babies, be patient, because also when you move adults, you can't, they're not like balls. Balls, you could buy a male, an adult male, and
balls are almost indestructible.
Plan on breeding it that year and have it work out most of the time.
Here's a big problem that a lot of ball python people are running into, going from ball pythons to a new chondro. Because I'll give you an example, right? Ball pythons can handle summer times, man. They can handle warm daytimes, and it could drop fairly low, and ball pythons will be fine. You get a brand new chondro, a baby chondro, and you put it in a tub, like let's just say a 16-quart tub, whatever, right? And you give it an 84 hot spot, whatever the temps, but then the room is like 60 degrees.
Yeah,
that's not good, right?
No, it's too cold,
right? So the ambient, no matter what the hot spot is in that tub, the outside temperature is a huge factor. Wouldn't you say?
It is. I mean, if you think about it,
especially a new chondro, like it just arrived, let alone a smaller one, a younger one.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those are. I mean, it's not gonna be a ball python. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I even feel like ball pythons can be finicky and shut down if it's not consistent. What I'm saying is, I don't feel like temp fluctuation is.
They're not as forgiving. They're not as forgiving as a ball python. So, if you provide them with the right environment, they'll thrive for you. But the parameters for providing that are ball python, high, low, humidity, your parameters, this. Chondro is like this. So you can fluctuate in between here and here.
Right.
And if you go below that or above that, you're going to have problems. Whereas that range for a ball python is a lot, greater.
Right.
It'll take a little hotter, take a little colder, take a little more inconsistency. Whereas the green tree, if you give it the right parameters, it's going to do great. But if your husbandry, you don't mist it often, you don't keep them enough, you keep them humid enough, or you don't keep them, you let them get too cold, you tend to have problems.
Right. And and problems is the last thing you want with chondros, because they're going to give you problems regardless.
Yeah.
So just don't make it hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. That being said, I mean, what was the last chondro you've ever sold? Do you remember? Because you don't sell chondros, from what I understand.
Yeah, I haven't sold any in a while. It's been a couple years. So I would say, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Once I hatched the first albino, I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to focus on.
Right.
So, you can see I've got empty cages here, a lot of empty vision cages that at one point were full,
but they're about to be full.
They're about to be full because I've got all these animals that I've saved for the last 3 or 4 years.
Heat, by the way, calico heat, you name it. Oh man, it's definitely breathtaking. Let's just say that.
Thanks. Yeah.
And like I said, and this is that calico stock that you have is the last calico stuff really available in your projects, right? Like,
yeah, I don't have, yeah. So
there's no other calico stuff but that stuff right
that's
there.
That's it for me. Yeah. Cause I had a male that was about 10 years old, I guess. And he sired that clutch and either died. I can't remember if it was right before they hatched or right after they hatched. So that's it for that bloodline for me. There is some people that still have some of it. There's still some floating around out there, but for me, these ones that I have now are it. So, I've got people that have legit been, wanting to buy them, asking to buy them for, since they were neonates, and they'll still check with me every now and then,
Just bring them on that
honestly,
doorbell.
I don't even know the sex of half of them. They're all big enough. And it's like, I'm trying to sex
You have
them.
an idea.
I have an idea. I've been sexing them by shed skins.
Right.
So I have like 3 confirmed males, and I have 2 that I'm believe are females, but I'm not getting rid of them. So,
right.
Hopefully I don't end up with like, whatever, 10 males back there.
Right.
Ideally I'd like to have a nice mix or be slightly female heavy. But yeah, so the game plan was because as easy as the ball pythons are to sell, like the higher end ball pythons, green tree pythons, if I could produce 50 of them, I could sell all 50. And
you still wouldn't be able to keep up.
Exactly.
Right. Especially right now, like it's hot. It's hotter than ever right now.
It is, which is crazy because they're 10 times the price that they were when I got into it.
Right.
And they're way less available.
Right. But there's some CBBs at Tinley for $350, man. I mean, you never know. Roll them dice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. So the plan has been for the last 4 or 5 years, don't sell anything, keep it all back.
Right.
And I'm getting to the point now where hopefully that's going to start paying off because when you only have one clutch a year and it's a small, you have 10.
Yeah, it's not like you're going 12 for 12 like ball pythons.
Yeah, and you got to figure some of them you're gonna have problems. They're gonna prolapse on you. They're gonna whatever. So
fuck with your heart.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They fuck with it. Let me ask you this: at what point did you turn cold with it? Because I mean, dude, there's so much heartbreak you deal with year in year out, right? But there had to be a point where you're like, you know what, Marcial? You better fucking put that emotions on the shelf. This is the way the game goes. When did you accept?
Yeah.
When did you accept this?
I mean, there's been so many ups and downs, man. Like I couldn't even tell you. It is what it is. That's what you have to tell yourself.
But don't the ups make the downs worth it?
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hatching in albino, we talked about earlier, the albino project's been full of ups and downs. Then, finally I had that one that survived for, I think, about 2 years. And man, when that thing died, that was one of the lowest. That was one of the lowest lows because I had been trying. I think at that point I'd produced maybe that was the third or fourth one I had produced, and only one that had lived. And it was 2 years old. Man, it was looking so good. And then some weird thing, blockage from feeding. It had like a rat claw or rat tooth stuck in its digestive tract.
And that's what set it off.
Yeah, so a tooth or
figure.
Yeah, and then it embedded into its
so
intestine.
it never digested it.
What was happening is
passed through
when hair and stuff would pass through, it was acting like a little catch, and shit was just building up around it.
So it got infected.
And then it had a lump.
Right.
And
it's like an abscess.
We couldn't. It was just built up rat fur and stuff that couldn't pass through couldn't pass,
and it deteriorated.
And so we did surgery trying to remove it. We tried all kinds of stuff to get it to come out naturally first.
Right.
And nothing worked, and then did surgery, and then it just died as a complication of surgery. So
I mean, God forbid, you come in here tomorrow and something is on the floor. What would be a protocol for you? I mean, are you somebody who takes it to the vet and gets a necropsy, or are you just you call it, charge it to the game and you keep it moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, having something die just out of the blue randomly it doesn't really happen to me. It doesn't really happen that often, I'll know if a snake is sick or
prior of it just dropping.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying that it couldn't happen because that especially it happens a lot with especially when females are gravid. That seems to be a really sensitive time. A lot of people lose gravid females or females that lay eggs and then they get sick right after they lay.
Right.
It's so taxing on a female chondro for whatever reason. Female chondros do great. They'll live just as long as males until you start breeding.
Till you start breeding.
That's
when everything changes.
That's right.
Everything. And honestly, man, it's just that's why at the end of the day, I won't take the ball pythons for granted, but I do just love the fact that it's okay if I'm not going to breed any green tree pythons because, I just love creating life. It's a fucking great feeling. Would I like to create more chondro life? Of course, but it's just you're destined to run into some shit no matter what, and it's just a matter of are you ready to deal with it? And I don't know. I just that times is bound to come. But with that being said, what do you when you have a first time? You have some chondros that are going to be going for the first time here soon, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what is your game plan on waiting for the right first pairing on a virgin? Chondro, either male or female. Do you wait for a certain age? Do you wait for certain weights?
I usually wait till they're 5 years old.
No matter how big they are.
No matter how big they are.
Wow.
Yeah, because everything in here gets fed on the same. All the chondros, it's very rare that I would feed one adult chondro.
Right.
So all of them get fed. Maybe definitely not on a set schedule, but if I'm going to feed one chondro, I'll feed the whole group.
Right.
So they all are fed the same amount. And some just grow bigger than others,
That's for sure. And emeralds, I mean, that's anything.
Yeah, emeralds too. But even chondros, we looked at those ones earlier when we were taking them out to film or whatever.
Right.
I have 3 over here that are all siblings, and one of them's a good, third bigger than the other 2. Same age, same feeding schedule, same everything. So some of them just have genetics that just makes them larger. So to me, the 5-year mark is the
it's a go time for you.
if it's a really big animal and it's a robust, great feeder, you could do 4.
Right.
Emeralds, I don't even think about it till they're 5.
Okay.
A green tree, if it's, like I said, a great, good eater, good, robust female, you could do it at 4.
Right.
My first clutch I ever produced, the male was 18 months and the female was like 2.5 years old. Right. So, it is possible to breed them young, but then, I feel like you open the door to having more issues.
And like you said, with the emeralds, regardless of size, you're not doing shit until they're about 5 years old, just because that's like a safe protocol.
That's right.
Because their process of giving birth is different. It's not eggs, it's live birth, right?
Yep. They tend to look worse afterwards. So
dude, yeah, they take a big hit.
They do.
They take a lot out of themselves.
Yeah.
And so how was bouncing your female back this year?
Luckily it was good. Both of the ones that I had the one that got the Basin female that had the good, nice litter from, and then this female here behind you, she slugged out. And
so gorgeous.
Both of them fortunately started taking meals within a week after either giving birth or dropping the slugs. They both went back on feed.
And you get them back slowly. Like, what's the first meal like for you?
Small, yeah, no lump on the first meal. Like,
so even like a jumbo mouse, maybe, or like
no, not a mouse, just like a small, like a wean rat or small rat, something like that. And then I'll
definitely
let it
the small side.
I'll let it digest that for a week or two, and then maybe the next one I'll bump it up a little bit, and then after that, then it's back to normal. I think I told you maybe yesterday when we were talking. Emeralds can take a big meal.
Yeah,
despite what.
Which was like so like a fucking myth in the beginning, because so many people were selling unhealthy emeralds that were just puking when you would want to give it a little lump, and a healthy emerald does not puke. Like you could give that shit a goddamn jumbo rat,
and I have,
and it's gonna hold it down.
Yeah, these bigger ones that are behind me, they've all had jumbo rats at least a couple times in their life. I don't do it anymore, but at the time, I was like, man, I think this thing could eat it, and I just was gonna try it. And, I had a bunch of retired breeder rats. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with these things? I don't have anything to feed them to. So I was like, I'll just give it a shot.
Right.
And man, they ate it, held it down, no problem. Now I didn't feed them for 2 months after that, but yeah, they can take bigger meals than what a lot of people think.
I want to kind of steer back to the neonate chondros for a second, because I feel some people, or almost any snake, actually, any hatchling, but I feel some people are too quick to jump the gun on the assist feed or force feed. So what is something you go by, and like, when is there a mark in your head where you're like, all right, I need to get a meal on this fucking snake?
Yeah, again, it's kind of a case by case with the animal.
How it looks and whatnot.
You have to look at the animal, because you can tell, if they're starting to get a little skinny, if you can see the backbone, they kind of get that triangular shape, because you don't want to wait too long, because they can get to a point of no return.
They shut down, and
then no matter what you do, nothing's going to work.
Right.
So you want to get on it before that point, but not too early. So it's kind of hard. I don't have like a hard and fast rule that says, okay, 1 month in, I'm going to do it. It just kind of depends on the snake. Some of them I may wait a month. Some of them I might not. I might wait a week, or not a week, but 2 weeks. Right. Maybe like two tries, and if I do 2 tries, and like, let's say it's a runner, 2 tries, if it runs the second time, the third time, automatic assist feed.
Because you know damn well that
all you're doing is going. All you're doing is stressing it out worse. So it's almost like if I'm gonna stress it out, might as well get a meal in it.
So at least it's growing while it's stressed versus fucking deteriorating itself while it's stressed.
Right.
Which is not what you want to do.
Yeah. Or you don't want to like pester it for half an hour and then have it not end up with a meal in it, Right.
Okay. Now, with the feeding of, your males, right? Like, we talked about Versace. Versace is one of the breeders who shuts off food. But like, how are you got to be careful about that, right? So like, how are you determining that, like, okay, this snake is, even though it's not consistently eating, it's still safe enough to be paired?
Well, I mean, a male, I'll pair him a lot of chondros and a lot of my ball pythons. When it gets to be breeding season, their feeding definitely slows down. Now, I have found that like my best breeder males, like the male I was telling you that sired 10 clutches,
right?
He eats, he'll be breeding and you could feed him while he's breeding. Nice. Like, they just eat
throughout the year,
as much as you offer, and those are always the best breeders.
Yes.
Versace's kind of hit or miss. He doesn't usually shut down for like a whole season, but he'll refuse like every other time.
Has that always been his personality, or
pretty much? Yeah.
And you've had him for how long now? Exactly.
I had him since I got him as a neonate. So
he's been, his whole life he's been here.
Yeah.
And his background, he came from who?
Trooper Walsh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And you met Trooper where the first time?
I met Trooper through my buddy John Romano. That he's not into. He still keeps some stuff. He's not super into chondros anymore. But him and I met through through the early chondro forums, and we both like live music. So we went to some concerts together and just kind of became tight. He was at school at University of Maryland, and which Trooper worked at the National Zoo, which is in DC area.
Right. And
so he went, and I believe he went to the zoo and did volunteer work. It worked with Trooper on with Komodos, and they got a pretty nice reptile house there.
Right.
And so John was kind of like a I'm gonna say intern at the zoo, and he was connected to Trooper. So that's how I got hooked up with Trooper.
And this is what year?
98.
Oh, 98 was a good year. That's when I first listened to Slipknot.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. What the fuck, bro? Listen. I guarantee I could get you into Slipknot, bro. Maybe. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, 98 was a good year. But to think, okay, so 98, and then what? You're in college then, or were you coming out of college?
I was just out of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's when the whole chondro thing happened after school, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got out of school.
That's right.
And you married Laura when?
We met in 99, I think, and we got married in 04.
So you already had snakes when you met her.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, she knew what she was getting herself into.
Laura's a real one, by the way. Shout out to Laura. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
Love you, babe.
Yeah, she's awesome. But Laura, right? What was her first, because obviously she saw you grow and grow and grow, right?
Yeah.
So did she ever have concerns? Did she ever kind of be like, yo, what are you doing with this?
No, I couldn't do any of this without her. Sure. I mean, anybody who does this and has a family, you've got to have a supportive partner.
Yeah, or it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. Yeah. So none of this would be possible without her. I mean, she's definitely the brains of this operation. She did everything. I go to work, I clean snakes, sell snakes, go to work. She does literally everything else. She does groceries. She pays the bills. She does all the
shit that you don't even have to worry about.
Inner workings of what it means being in a family.
Right.
She does all that so that I can do this
and worry about this shit.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's teamwork.
It is. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work
every day. Now, have you, we talked about earlier about you wanting to possibly think about going full time. Was that something you brought up to Laura? Did you guys ever sit down and talk about?
We've talked about it. But like I was saying earlier, the stability of having just my regular 9 to 5, and I've been doing that for just as long as I've had this collection. So I've been in my career now for 30 years. And so I've, been able to advance and, climb the corporate ladder and all that kind of stuff. Which, like I said, it's not always great. It's stressful as a mother.
You got to play them politics really good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bill. That was for you, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill's like, hey, you guys going to talk about politics tonight? Or I'm like, fucking Bill.
I love Bill.
Shout out to Bill Stiegel. That's my boy.
I love messing
and
with
Patrick Holmes in the house. Shout out to Patrick.
What's up, Patrick?
Shout out to Brett Bender. Benny Bender's in the house. Shout out to Texas.
Up,
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I love fucking with Bill.
He loves fucking with you.
I know.
I'm telling you. Especially during because you got to admit, I mean, during the heat of the election and shit, there was so much back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, bro, I despised everyone's Trump roast, but yours. Yours were fucking, I couldn't help but to fucking laugh because you did have a lot of key points. You know what I mean? There's also a lot of other key points,
Sure.
But the thing was, you were never writing Biden. You just fucking hated Trump. You just didn't like Trump.
Yeah, right.
And you trust me, there was a lot of things that opened my eyes. I'm not trying to talk about that right now, but at the end of the day, it was fucking hilarious because you have Bill, who's fucking diehard Texas, what I mean? Has Trump, he had 4 Trump fucking signs in his yard. He's like, here, pull one of these signs. He's like, this is for Marcial. and we did it. We flipped them off, which, you know, it was all love, you know, we fucking, but that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, that's when I was like, you know what, this politics shit really is not that serious. Because look,
It's not,
like,
man.
they're
Like,
boys, you know
and,
what I mean?
And,
Like,
I get on Facebook, and I like to stir shit up, you
Yeah,
know,
why
on
not?
Facebook. You know, it's fun. It's fun to get to talk shit with people. I don't ever get offended. I don't take anything personal on Facebook. I can talk politics. You know, people always say don't talk about politics with people. You can talk about it. Does like nothing you say. Like, you could be completely opposite from me on everything, and I'll argue with you, and I'm not gonna like think it less of you
sleep or
as a person. Afterwards, you know,
Right.
like I can have that conversation and separate your political views from, you know,
keep
like,
the emotions out of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's literally just point of views, you know what I mean? And it
Sure.
really has no, like, your political views does not pay someone else's bills or refuses them to get paid. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? So I mean, it's just all point. It's just preference. But like I said, it made me laugh, and it made me also realize the ones I'm friends with in this hobby are the right ones. Like the
Sure.
ones who are just fucking really in it, just for all the love. But I mean, what do you think of the Texas crew, man? I mean, Texas has a serious lineup of chondro breeders.
They
man.
do. Yeah.
They're probably one of the heaviest states. I
agree.
feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
And because you got a lot of people who are like, I feel like they all like ride the same level of keeping chondros, and they're all like quality fucking keepers.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I would say the chondro people who keep it draws a certain kind of person,
Right.
because you have to be, you know, you have to be a little bit
Snobby.
a little bit. That's not what I was gonna say.
Just a
but
little bit. Just a little bit.
You have to be,
Bill knows.
you know, you have to be. You're what? You're
Just
selective.
on your shit.
You're
You just gotta be
selective
on your-
about who you
honestly,
hang out
chondro motherfuckers are on their shit. Like, and they know they're on their shit, and they don't like to be called out on their shit. So it's like kind of a thing where, you know, it's not, snob's not really a bad thing in a sense. It's more of a little perfectionist. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because
it's extra nerdy. You go.
It's definitely you go
down
record,
the
you go
wormhole.
record keeping and fucking
Yes.
you know, ultrasounding, right, Sock? And
Yes.
you know, and if anything, man, Sock is fucking a big fucking geek, dude. That guy is probably one of the best looking geeks I've ever met. Like, and he's a savage. Like, bro, he fucking trains hard, but he like knows his shit like a goddamn book, bro. And honestly, it's because how much he's involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're the same way too, man. I mean, it's just you can't help but to be that way when you're around this shit 24/7
Right.
for years in, years out, you know. And the thing is, with Sock, like shit, he was in this in 2010. Like, he produced his first chondro clutch, not on purpose, but he still produced the first chondro clutch back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it goes back for him as well, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think a large percentage of people who, you know, get to where they're doing snakes at, you know, at a high level have been into it. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like in your blood, you know. Like, for me, it's been since I was a kid, you know. Like, I always saw my first snake at a pet store or you know, whatever the deal was when I was in first grade, and from that minute forward, that's like a pivotal moment in my life.
What were the books back then? Like, did they have zoo books and shit back then?
I've still got them.
Damn. When you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I have all my snake books. Like, I was never into sports. I was never into, you know, I was the geeky kid reading snake books in my room.
See, I was a cool
You know?
kid with snakes. I was actually fucking never really.
I wasn't
geek.
I wasn't
Just
super.
kidding.
I wasn't that cool in grade school.
But honestly, man, I just always had a certain love for animals that I never had for humans. Like, I just, you know, and I don't know what that was. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you gotta understand, there's so many people out there that I mean, the whole like trust nobody thing is kind of a real saying. It's really hard to really put your guard down with a stranger. You know what I mean? With an animal, you don't have to really put your guard down. Shit, they're just an innocent fucking animal. You know what I mean? And I've known that since I was a kid. So animals have always been something I've kind of latched onto. Like, I don't know for how long. And even though I played all these sports, I was a popular kid and shit like that. But at the end of the day, like, my biggest love and my biggest like relation was to an animal. You know what I mean? And I feel like certain people who even get into animal keeping late in the game don't know that they have a true love for animals and didn't know that until they fucking had one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Especially with snakes. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've sold a first snake to who immediately went from one ball python to a chondro. You know what I mean? Doing it the right way, asking me, hey, I'm watching your, like, dude, you know, and I want to toot my own horn. But I'm saying these fucking podcasts are what giving people the right idea on what they should do if they really want to consider going from a ball python straight to a chondro. Because it's not that it's impossible. And you could do it.
Yeah.
There's just certain fucking, you just don't take shortcuts for one thing. And honestly, I feel like listening to other people's experiences and mistakes are something you really kind of
learn from it. Yeah.
You soak that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I try to be upfront and on it. It's not always great. You're not going to post every bad thing that happens just because.
Dude, some people never posted any bad thing.
Right.
Like before it was like fucking forbidden to post anything negative because it was like, nope, not here. It was always peaches and cream.
Right.
But as YouTube and shit came out and, I'll shoot a shot to Barchek. Barchek showed a lot of fucking realistic type shit that was happening, which gave him some hate. But at the end of the day, it was just real life shit that was happening, right?
Sure.
But it's definitely like, people admitting that they had NIDO and shit like that. Like,
Yep.
that's starting to be more open now.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because it is fucking real life. And what it is, when people hear other people's stories, they kind of relate to it and they go, okay, I'm not the only one. Like, like Mike's just doesn't only happen to a fucking dirty person. I mean, it can happen to almost anyone. You know what I mean?
It can. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, the trick is to learn from other people. And so like, mites is one of those things where, man, there's no reason why you could. It's a preventable thing,
right?
Like mites are preventable, so you can't bring. If you don't have mites, you're never going to get them if you don't bring them in with the new snake.
Mites are only brought in; they're not born.
They're not born with. If you don't have, this collection could exist for 100 years, and if I don't bring any more snakes in, there will never be snake mites in here.
You know what's crazy? I was telling Marcial, I was like, yeah, man, I got no pest strips and I haven't had fucking mites in a year and a half. Damn, you want to know the last time I got an import? About a year and a half.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the pest strips. Maybe it's the fact that I stopped fucking adding imports into my goddamn collection. Maybe that was it. And stop dealing with one piece of shit fucking importer, and that's another thing too, man. Like at the end of the day, people, like, dude, you got people who even have money who can't get a chondro because they're either wait list or whatever the fuck. So they get what they can get.
It's tough out there.
They sometimes get what they can get. So I mean, let's talk about, somebody who has an opportunity to get an import or something that's brought in from Indonesia. Like, what's your stand on that?
I don't really have a stand. I can tell you that I've never purchased a non-captive bred animal since I started this collection in '98. Obviously when I was younger, there was no captive bred stuff. Everything was imported. Right. So, when I was in high school and, growing up from, grade school through high school, everything I had probably was imported just because back in the, 80s and whatever, there was no captive bred stuff.
Right.
But since I started the current collection, never purchased anything farm bred, wild caught, nothing. Everything's always been captive bred. So I have no experience with farmed animals or imports. All I can go by is the stuff you read about, other people's experiences.
Right. Which was almost nearly impossible. Like if you're not tapped in with the right people to get information on shit back then, pre-social media, it was fucking nearly impossible.
Sure, it was. Yeah.
Like you were just learning off your own mistakes.
That's right. That's right. So, but if you start with captive bred stuff, your chances of success are going to be much higher.
Right. So, okay, the import shit from back in the early days.
Yeah.
Was a lot of it coming in fucked up? Was it the same old scenario like now where you're rolling the dice? Some of it's good, some of it's not.
Well, I never had chondros growing up. And like, pre. So my snake years are divided up from first grade through high school, and then when I went to college, I didn't have any snakes.
And then college after.
And after college, almost immediately started to this. Right. So I never had chondros pre-college. Okay. Right. Had emeralds, and same thing, puke. They would puke.
You had emeralds pre-college. You had emeralds?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got my first ones.
From who?
Guy's name. He's still. I'm pretty sure he's still around. A guy.
So this is early '90s.
In Tampa. Oh no, this is
or mid-90s.
This is '80s.
Oh my god, '80s.
Yeah.
Dude, you're OG. So you had emeralds in the '80s. You're like on some merino shit.
Yeah.
Dude, but you weren't.
I wasn't breeding them.
But you were keeping them.
Just keeping. I mean, I was like in. I think I got my first ones when I was in like maybe 7th or 8th grade.
Damn. So you're not some Stephen Kush shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, Stephen. I'm not Stephen Kush. He's like
Steven's a phenom.
He's a savant.
That silver spoon, baby. Fuck. Oh, dude, I love Steven. Shout out to Stephen Kush, even though I know he's tightly in bed right now because of his 15 hours days at the Cold Blooded Cafe and Reptile. But you're missed, buddy, by the way. But yeah, okay, that's it's funny you say that. So if we could kind of track back with your success with the Basins,
Mhm.
which your last litter of Basins was 2012.
13 before this year. Yeah.
It's a big gap right there.
Mhm.
Let's talk
And that
about
was mainly because I had the litter, and then basically what happened is somebody was, pestering me about they weren't selling the pair. So I got the pair from, I actually got them from Rolando. You know him?
I've heard of Rolando.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got them from Rolando in a trade. I don't remember exactly what the trade was. I think it was like I think I traded him it was a Calico Junior, which was a Greg, one of Greg Maxwell's kind of more famous productions. It was a Calico Junior sibling. So I traded him that snake and another really nice chondro for a pair of emeralds that him and Rico had done on a joint project together. So that's how I got my Basins back in. I got them in. So that was 13. I got them in 07, which is the same year as some of these were back here. So I raised them up from babies, bred them. And then this guy was like just wearing me out. Hey, man, how much do you want for them? Are they for sale? I'm like, no, they're not for sale. Till finally.
For how long though? How long was he?
This went on.
Was he tugging on your tail for?
This went on for a couple months, and then he said, "All right, finally, I was.
You came up with the number.
I got sick of it. I was like, okay, man."
Which you didn't think he was gonna say.
No,
okay.
I threw a number out there that I never thought he would.
You thought you were gonna scare him off, basically.
Yeah.
Like, go fuck yourself.
And he was like, okay, I'll take them.
Wired that shit.
Wired me the money like within a couple hours.
And that's that.
And then so
and that's how anything is for sale. Just like that.
So those Basins produced a litter for me, and then I sold them. And then I didn't get any more. I kept some holdbacks, and then ended up like kind of, at the time I was getting heavier into ball pythons, and ended up selling them. Some of the Basin holdbacks to buy some nicer ball pythons,
right? And
like
which back then it was the Ultramels you were investing, right?
Correct.
And that's
I bought Ultramel. I bought into Ultramel in 2010 or 11.
From who?
I got some initially from a guy named Brent Bielstein. I don't think he's still doing it anymore.
Never heard of him.
And then I got some from Vin Russo.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. And Vin Russo, obviously, is he even breeding anymore? Or, yeah, he does.
Yeah, cutting edge herp. He had a.
Oh, okay, cool.
He had a table at Tinley.
Awesome.
I don't know if he still works with. I didn't. I know he does a lot of boas,
right?
Like red, red tail morphs,
right?
And he probably still does ball python. I mean, he's pretty big. He's got a pretty big operation. I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's been in the game for
big time.
A long
Respect
time.
To Russo, for sure.
Yeah, and doing it. That's what he does.
Right.
It's a full time gig.
So I mean, the Ultramel game, man. And like I said, I'm very, very like
Gary.
Oh, what am I?
Cocktail in hand.
All right, wait. What are we drinking right now? So hold on. I think I'm drinking a Pinot Grigio. I told you there's red Pinot Grigio.
Red Pinot Grigio.
What does that say right there? Oh, I can't. Pinot Grigio. I'm just kidding. This says Pinot Noir. Gary, I love you. If you're out there, I love you so much. I will say this, okay? Best highlight Tinley moment, okay? I'm texting Marcial. Marcial's like, where you at, man? I'm at the bar. I'm like, all right, I'm heading down there. Walk in, meet the man Marcial, okay? Sit down at a table, throw a pat my back. Who is it? Gary Shavino. Now I have Gary and Marcial sitting right there next to me. Gary asks me kindly, Michael or MJ, what do you want to drink? I said, I want a red Pinot Grigio. He's like, Pinot Grigio? He's like, Pinot Grigio? There is no red Pinot. I was like, yes, there is a Pinot Grigio. There's a red Pinot Grigio. Walks away very confused. I'm and then going back to conversation with Marcial, and here comes fucking Gary, slams down my drink. There's no Pinot Grigio, it's Pinot Noir, and walks away. I really don't know my red or my wines at all. So thank you for putting me on school, Gary, that there is no Pinot Grigio red, it's Pinot Noir. And I miss you, buddy. Sorry about the thumbnail too. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say. So
no, I wanted you. Okay, so this picture right here, if you can see my right arm's cut off, it was actually around Gary. But Marcial refused to have Gary in the thumbnail. I was like, okay, bro, you're in it. We had
this moment where we all three met for the first time, and we took a picture, and you loved Gary so much you cut him out of the picture.
Love you,
Just
Gary,
kidding,
man.
Gary. Love you, man.
You're the man. But okay, we didn't even talk about Tinley, man. What did you think of Tinley?
I had a great time. I thought it was a lot of fun. I it's been a while since I've vended, so to me it's kind of fun just to go,
Just to
be there, meet people, hang out. And every year, like last year, I went, or I guess it was 2019, before the last Tinley before this one, and went there with no snakes, and ended up coming home with like freaking a couple grand in cash. People were like, "Hey, do you still have these whatever that you have on Work Market?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, okay, here."
So you sold snakes walking around.
Sold snakes walking around.
Actually, I did that too, but I immediately spent it there. I think who say what I bought one? Fuck, Steve Morris, and there's a couple other, but Jesus, yeah.
And you bought a boa too, right?
Yeah, and I bought.
Yeah,
Boa
I was so surprised. It's like people that I had just met them, and they were like handed me over big wads of cash, and like I don't know.
So you're like, I'll deliver you this. They were paying you, and you're like, I'll deliver you the snake when I get home, type of thing.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers don't play at Tinley.
Yeah.
They come ready.
They come correct.
They come correct. So I mean, with that being said, do you see yourself at some point vending again? I mean, if you could do that good walking around,
yeah, I would like, my thing is I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything small. I want to do it big.
If you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it.
Like what I would love, my dream would be to have a year where I could get maybe 3 tables and have like a dozen baby chondros, a dozen baby emeralds, and then like, a whole
nobody's doing that.
Huge display thing, nothing but all ultramel and combo stuff. Damn. That would be a cool display that would draw
such a feasible goal. I'm telling you right now.
A lot of attention. So, I don't want to go and just have mediocre stuff. Like I wanted, because not that I have mediocre stuff, but none of my really good stuff's for sale. So hopefully I can get to a point where, now that I've been kind of building up the chondros over these last couple of years, get to a point where I can have more than 1 or 2 clutches a year, right? Where I could, in theory, start having like enough babies where I would want to sell babies again.
Right.
So
let me ask you this, man. If it's one thing we're just talking about the high investment game of ball pythons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are getting their hands on what could possibly be like an ultramills type situation, like the way how you were the only one getting ultramil back then, right? Well, I mean, and
they were around, but they were,
there weren't many though. Like meaning,
that's right. I got in early.
You're one of the lucky ones that's selective on that, right? And you stuck with it, right?
Right.
So somebody who's kind of in that position now, maybe doesn't know it, but is invested like the way you were back then with ultramil. What was like your initial game plan, knowing that you have this rare gene and like knowing what you want to put to it? Like what
immediately the first thing I want to do is clown.
The most poppin' recessive.
Yeah. So very first year I bred ultramel male to one of my clown females.
Right.
And I got really lucky on the odds. I got 5 females from that clutch. And I still have all 5 of the females. They're right there. That was in 2013.
And they're your breeders now.
And they're breeders now. Yeah.
So you were even holding shit back then.
Did I hold everything back? Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's it. That's what that dude. That's the. I mean, because you understand, like, if it's one thing I preach about people coming into this, like, it's about the long game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to be about the long game. But that's why it's not about money in the beginning. It shouldn't be.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's if it unfolds on its own.
Right.
But this whole putting money on a timeline,
nah,
bro, that's like, you don't even know if you have that yet.
That's right.
Like it's cards that are dealt.
And you don't want to, you produce, like, let's just say you get lucky and you produce whatever snake you're trying for. That's a 2 or 3 gene or a double recessive or, whatever. And you think, oh, I produced this one, I'll just sell it and I can produce another one next year. Well, hell, you might go 2 or 3 years and not make another one.
Right.
So when you have it, it's very important that you hang on to it. You know, you don't want to bank on possibly making another one later.
Right.
So I tend to hold stuff back, even to a fault, a little bit. Like I hold back all my nicest stuff. I keep the nicest 20 ball python wise. I'll keep the nicest say 25% of everything I produce.
And that's even including the nicest hets, right? Like, I mean, female hets you like to keep, or
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those are, I mean, honestly, I look for those.
Yeah. I mean, obviously visuals
are good,
are better, but I don't turn my nose up at female hets,
right?
You know, especially if they have other genes on top, you know. I mean, like I said, my whole plan is to get all the ball pythons in this room double het for ultra male and clown.
Right.
You know, I think it's important that you kind of focus, you know, when you're my size, when you're like a Brock Wagner or a JKR, right. You know, when you've got, you know, 1,000 snakes or however many snakes those guys have, you don't have to be as focused, you know,
because you have so much to work with.
You have so much to work with, but I've got limited space, limited time.
You're selective.
So I've got to, everything that I have needs to be able to plug and play with everything else.
It has to make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, you just kind of get a fragmented collection, and you know, you need to produce some of these animals. You need numbers,
right?
You know, because you're shooting for that 1 out of 16 or that 1 out of 64 snake. So if you're just putting one pair together and they have 8 eggs, that could take you fucking 10 years to get that snake.
Exactly.
But if you have 3 or 4 females, that's, you know, it just basically triples your chances. So it's a numbers game with the morphs, you know.
Now, you know, other than the numbers game, you know, being a factor, I feel like, you know, some people have a struggle of, you know, getting a grasp of, you know, the ball python game quick. What I mean by that, like within the first couple of years, they're producing crazy heat, but then they hit like a wall, not being able to sell their shit. You know what I mean? Or you know, getting their stuff out there, right? So we talked earlier that a lot of your stuff is sold on Morph Market, right? Other than Morph Market, do you think there's stuff people could do out there to kind of help get themselves?
I mean, obviously your social media is big these days.
Yeah.
You know, you know, Instagram, I think, is kind of a great way to get out. I don't sell a bunch of snakes on Instagram, mainly because people on Instagram, I feel like, follow me mainly for the arboreal stuff.
Right.
And I don't really sell a whole lot of arboreal stuff. You know?
But what was the stuff you sold at Tinley?
Ball python.
Yeah. The ball python community wins, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, man, it's I'm not gonna put any names out there, even though I want to really bad, but there are motherfuckers who gave me shit. Even Forrest, bro. Forrest was he would not allow any ball python breeders other than Miguel, and Miguel refused because they were gonna battle about something about money, but he didn't want anybody that bred ball pythons on unfiltered.
Really?
Yeah. No, man. We don't need to talk about that. But what's crazy is like he doesn't ever talk. You know, he does talk about like the crazy investments he had in ball pythons. Like,
yeah.
One of the first ones to really invest in the scaleless ball python game and just sell the whole project for $1 million. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're not selling any Chondro projects like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you know, I don't know. I really
everybody likes to beat up on ball pythons. Like people who don't have ball pythons.
Shit on them.
They do
until they're like scratching their head and either, you know, watching podcasts like this, or they just start to, you know, eventually people start to get the drift and they're like, okay, like,
I mean, you don't have to have like a whole room full of that's all you do, but they could just be another species that you
it doesn't hurt. Like, it does not hurt,
that you like and are in it. Obviously if you don't like them, you don't like them, don't work with them,
right?
But you know, don't a lot of people have a negative attitude about them, I think, because they are popular. You know, you go to a show and that's what you see the most of. And if you're into the more rare stuff,
it's kind of like if they like, it's kind of like, no, okay, like me, dude, like I think with all due respect, I think Sambos are the fucking ugliest things on earth.
Yeah.
I think hog noses are the fucking ugliest things on earth. But at the end of the day, they're popping, right? So I could understand someone who really hates ball pythons, and ball pythons is the fucking snake carrying the goddamn hobby right now.
Yeah,
because it is.
100%.
It is 100%. But at the end of the day, you know, I feel like the people who are really fucked are the ones who want to get into ball pythons who don't even like ball pythons. Like, you got to fucking be into it.
You got to be into it.
Because there are some cool shit. If you're into ball pythons, you cannot help but to like some morphs out there. And if it's anything anything that's turning heads or some of the shit that's being produced, I can't tell you how many times on Facebook, Facebook, where I fucking post a ball python and there's a random arboreal guy like, oh, I don't even like ball pythons, but this one is hot. You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you see shit like that? And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. You can deny it all you want. But I feel like as much as people are going from ball pythons to chondros, I feel like chondros are going to ball pythons too. It's crazy how the love's going back and forth right now.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people go to the shows and they see that, you know, the if you like ball pythons even a little bit, it's an easy thing. They're easy to get. You know, you could buy. The only thing separating you from the hottest ball python that's out there right now is money.
Right.
Like the only thing separating you from the hottest chondro right now, I don't care how much money you have. Like
Politics.
You can't. You probably
you better be in it right good with that motherfucker.
You probably can't buy it, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, I'm not going to say you can't buy it because everything in this room is for sale, right? So.
But you want to know how Texas works? Texas only sells to Texas. Did you notice that? Fucking Patrick. I'll notice someone getting a Patrick snake, and I'm like, where's this person from? What do you know? Texas. Like, bro, they're fucking, they keep that shit within the family, bro. It's nuts. And I pay attention to all that shit, just so you know. But you know, at the end of the day, everything is for sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that guy who fucking was on your case, and the number you thought was going to scare him off wired to you.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, let's go back to that. So I mean, you not gave away. Fuck no. The last thing you did was gave away that pair, but you sold that pair to that guy, and then you went the 8 years, or how many years until you picked up your next pair of basins?
So I picked these up. I don't know. God, I guess it was maybe 2017 or something like that. 4 years went by.
Okay.
And then I bought. Coincidentally, it happened to be the same guy. I did a trade with him, and he wanted my those extreme like cross hybrid emeralds that I had. The crosses, you know.
Were they like 50-50s, or what were they?
They were like, I think they were 75-25s. So 75.
Are those are the 75-25s one with a lot of black in them?
No.
That's the opposite.
Those
25-75?
those are the big with the big white splotches.
Right. Which is what percentage is those? Is that usually?
Those are the ones that I made were 75-25.
Okay.
But I've also seen 50-50s that had the
that
big
black splotch, the white.
No,
piece,
it had the white.
Right. Okay.
The big white splotches.
Okay.
So anyway, I traded him a group of those and maybe like 1 or 2 neonate chondros for a
Tim's Instagram
for a 2-year-old merino female,
okay,
and then 1-year-old pair from Steve Volk.
Okay.
And so he had paid Ed and Steve for these animals, and they still had them in their possession. So I sent this guy my part of the trade, and then Ed and Steve shipped directly to me.
Okay. Wow.
And that's how I got these.
Okay. So I mean, so shout out to episode 113 brought to you by Tim Park, Emeralds 213.
Thanks, Tim.
Shout out to the boy Tim. We have his page pulled up here because he actually has one of Marcial Mendez productions. Go and scroll down for me. I believe it's that one right there. I believe it's that one.
Yeah, it's probably that one right there.
Yeah,
top center.
Top center. Top up. No, go back. That's Ed Marino's fire.
There you go.
That one right there.
That one. Yep.
This one right here. Dude, amazing. Okay.
Oh no, that's a basin.
Exit out again, dude. Scroll down.
I think it's that one.
Is it that? No, it's black. I thought
or maybe no, this one
right there. Lower, right there, in the middle. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
No, middle.
Middle. There you go. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the percentage on this one right here?
75-25.
Okay. Normally, do 70-25s look like this?
Well, you can see, man, they're all over the board.
So they're not really.
That's a 75-25. That's a 75-25. The ones that would have the extreme ones I was talking about earlier with the huge white splotches, those are 75-25.
Right.
So, you in the clutch, or sorry, in the litter of emeralds, you're always going to get, the top 10% are going to be, better than the parents.
Right.
The bottom 10% are going to be worse to the parent, worse than the parents,
okay.
And then you're going to get the ones in the middle are going to be about like the parents. They might be, maybe have more little bigger crossbars, less stripe, but the overall white is going to be probably about the same.
Looking at this snake, do you feel like this was on the upper end of the litter, or what do you? Because I mean, this is sure my favorite cross I've ever seen.
Yeah, that litter had some crazy freaks in it. So
right.
So it's hard to say. I mean, that's a great looking snake. The ones that have that's not the most extreme one from that litter,
right?
Because the most extreme ones had I'm going to say triple the amount of white that has, but that doesn't necessarily make them better, right?
Right.
That just makes them different.
Right. 100%. So in this case, if you were to put a, thank you so much. You can take that down, bro. If you were to go ahead and put a Basin to a 75-25, what would the baby outcomes be?
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
There's really no percentage on that.
I mean, yeah. Like,
what would be
the percentage
be?
would be. God, man, I'm making math right now.
I cheated my whole way through math, so there's no way I know this.
Let me think about this. So you breed a 75-25 to 100% Basin. I think you might actually be maybe back to 50-50.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that. I'd have to sit down with a piece of paper
Or the 60
and figure it out.
66 fucking
No,
34.
no, I don't think it'd be that.
30. My math is terrible.
I think you might get back to 50-50. I'd have to sit down and figure that out.
So okay, let's since we're just talking about my boy Tim, Tim is really vested in some really high
he's got some killer
shit, and he's not fucking around. Like, the guy has a really clean collection. I've been over to his place a couple times. Very impressed on how he runs his operation, but he's never bred before. You know what I mean? And dude, if it's one thing he's fucking open about is advice and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So for him having a female that's ready to breed and a male that's probably a year or two within breeding, what would you say a proper game plan or preparation would be within the next 2 years of getting, like, either keeping that female just in the right shape before breeding, or
I mean, all you can do is feed them when you need to feed them every 10 to 14 days, an appropriately sized meal, and then it's just a waiting game. You got to wait until they put the time in, wait till they're 5 years old.
And now, for instance, like, let's just say that time has come for, like, do you have any first time emeralds going this year?
Yeah,
like,
these up here,
and they're already paired up, right?
They're already paired up, yeah.
So is it, when it's your first time female going, do you just go off of that natural weather change from summer to winter? That's when you initially do the introduction for a virgin? Okay.
Yep.
Now, and then your other season breeders, are they kind of on a different schedule, or do you do everything kind of on the same?
It really just depends on how many males I'm trying to use. Like with Chondro wise, since I've been focusing on the albino stuff and Versace's getting older, I've got some extra males here that are they're definitely nicer looking than him, but they're only possible het, right? So I'm trying to spread him out. I'm trying to use him. Like, if he'll breed the 3 or 4 females that I have ready this year, I'm going to let him breed all 4 of them, just because I know 100% he's het.
Right.
And, I really want to I don't want to give up on the albino project yet. Even though
82.5, Gary with the math.
Look at that.
Thank you, Gary.
Look at the big brain on Gary.
Motherfucker. You must run a big business.
So yeah. But if I was trying to maybe use multiple males, the strategy might be different, because obviously you can't introduce him when the weather changes to all 4 females at once, right?
Right.
So, like, I put him with the one that was the most ready, and then he locked up with her a few times, and then whatever. Last night I moved him in there, and they've kind of been cuddled up, but I don't think they locked.
He was in between that this morning. But yeah, no locks. But I mean, that's a good sign. They're right next to each other, right?
Yeah.
Which
totally.
Let me ask you this: so when you pair a male, right? Like, let's just say not Versace, not somebody you really know. Like, let's say first time male, pair him up. What are some behaviors you're looking for, either out of concern or out of positivity? Like, especially like on a first time male, like we're talking about here.
I mean, most of the time when you put them together, if they're going to do anything, it'll happen almost within a couple of days. Like, very seldom do I put a pair together and they're not interested, and then they suddenly become interested in each other, you know? Like, so I would say if I put him in there and I didn't see any action within a couple of days, I would just put him back with the other one or move him to the next one,
So move to the next female.
Right.
Now, what if you have specific male to specific female type thing going? Like,
well, then at that point, then you just keep them together.
Okay.
It can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to keep them together.
Okay.
So if that was the case, then I would just put them together and leave them.
Right.
So I personally separate them to feed most of the time, just because I've had some bad experiences with both of them.
That's the easiest way. You're just better off going that route.
It's safer. I mean, you can
trust me. I've told this guy horror stories. Like, They will literally go the far extent of stealing the other fucking snake's food.
Yeah.
When clearly they have one already wrapped.
Yeah, they'll attack each other. I mean,
It's
on
dumb.
accident, they'll both grab the same rat. I've had to pull chondros off of each other on more than one occasion, and so now I just, it's just not worth taking the chance.
Right.
So I separate them to feed them, but other than that, we'll leave them together.
Okay. Now, you mentioned separating them, but I mean, at some point, if there's like no results within like let's say you had them paired for a year, I mean, would you just keep them together, or what would you do?
No, I would probably separate them. I mean, if
Give them a break.
Yeah, if they're not going to go and you've not seen any action and they haven't been, locking up, you don't have any other plans for the male. If he's not doing anything and it's been a month or two, then I'd separate them. Like maybe wait for a weather change or wait till,
something to happen.
Something changes. Yeah. And then maybe try pairing them up again.
Okay. Now, okay, let's, you mentioned, man, having the goals of vending and having so many ultra males on one table and then chondros all on one table. Realistically, man, where do you feel like the chondro market's going? Like, if you have so many people looking for chondros, hoarding chondros, wanting to breed chondros, do you feel like more people are going to get the hang of breeding chondros and they will become more available at some point? Or do you feel
I think we're getting back to that point. I mean, there are some people like Ian Bissell, for example.
Shout out to Ian S&J.
Yeah, he's killed it this year.
Yeah,
Socrates has killed it this year.
Yeah, Sock.
I mean, so I think those guys have both produced multiple clutches, and which is rare these days. But I think that's becoming more popular. There's the Nido event or phase happened where it wiped a bunch of people out, a bunch of big breeders. Rico died. The guy over in Indonesia died that was doing all the stuff for Bushmaster.
All the farm window shit, right?
Vladimir, I think was his name. Right. So, those guys were probably supplying whatever, 50% of the market or something like that. Yeah. I mean, I would go to Rico's house, man, and he would have, you'd look at his numbering system and he used the same numbering system as everybody else, Signal Herp, 07, yeah. Be like 07 235 or something like that. So, I mean, think about producing that number of chondros. I mean, that's a lot.
So the numbers thing, right? Like, how is that based off per clutch? So if you have your first clutch of the year, your first snake hatched is going to be the MM01 or is it one MM2101?
That's right.
And that number just goes up per how many more chondros?
That's right. Like, and I do the first two letters of the species name after. So chondros are MM2101VI for Viridis.
Viridis, okay.
And then ball pythons are MM2101RE for Regis.
Right.
So I always, like, Rico would just number his consecutively. He didn't split the species up. So, like I'll always thought it'd be cool to know, okay, I produced X number of chondros this year, X number of ball pythons this year. So I number each species separately. Some people, like I said, Rico, he did whatever it was, ball pythons, emeralds, chondros, he would lump them all. He didn't separate the numbers. Right. So the 235 could be a mix of chondros,
like 50
emeralds,
ball pythons or something.
Yeah, there are probably some ball pythons in there.
He just stacked it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I separate mine by species with the species name.
What are some things you remember that Rico put you on about, or like kind of maybe mentored you that always stuck with you?
The thing about Rico, man, is that he was, he did this full time. So obviously, he was a zookeeper, and then towards the end, before he died, he had kind of transitioned to where he had quit working at the zoo or the aquarium and was just doing his own thing.
Right.
And the thing about him, man, is he was just the nicest guy. Like, he had time for everybody. Like,
Seemed like it.
Whoever could call him on the phone and get him on the phone, and he would talk to him for 30 minutes, helping him with, like, first time chondro breeder.
Did he have long answers?
What do you mean?
Like, Forrest, you ask him a question, he gave you like a fucking 60-minute answer. Like, was he kind of like that?
I mean, Maybe. Yeah. I mean, he would take the time to answer your easy beginner questions,
telling you everything he felt like
for everybody.
Right.
And, I don't have time to do that. Time is the most valuable thing you have, right?
100%. You can't buy that back.
More than money.
Yeah.
Right. So your time is what it is. And, unfortunately, as much as I would love to talk snakes all day with people, I can't do it. I don't have time to do that. But you'll notice that the Chondro coalition kind of died with Rico because he was the glue
carrying it
that held everybody together. He was the common denominator that could relate to everybody. And the Chondro coalition has or had a bunch of very different dudes in it, different personalities, different levels of from Rico. Terry Phillip was in it, which I don't know if you know Terry.
Shout out to Terry Phillip.
Terry's a badass. He's
what's in it? He runs
Reptile Gardens.
Reptile Gardens, which is in South Dakota.
That's right.
Yeah. Shout out to Terry Phillips, Major.
Yeah, my buddy Chris Haight was in it. Eddie Asti was in it. So it's a broad range of people, and so I think what I took the most from Rico is just really had less to do about snakes and just about he was just a really good person.
Right.
Knew how to treated everybody well. That's the thing that I remember the most about him. Most fondly. As badass as he was with the snakes and his knowledge and everything he accomplished with his collection and with his business, the main thing I remember about him was he was just a genuinely nice person.
What do you recall United States Captive Born and Bred going for back then? What was the what were Rico's prices, if you could remember?
He had they varied, man, from I would say entry level $500, $450, $500 up to he
had them in the thousands too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as the market having that sort of high end game, it's always been like that. Meaning basins have always been the price of basins, $4,000 or $5,000,
right?
Babies,
yes,
for as long as you can remember, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I remember I had Ed on, and I remember Ed talking about selling babies for $5,000-$6,000 in the 90s.
Yeah, pretty much,
and that's still the case today.
Mm-hmm. And it's a function of they're a difficult species to work with, right? And to be successful with them and to produce babies, it takes time.
Right.
You have to. It's not an easy thing. It's not like a guaranteed thing, like ball pythons.
Like the ball pythons, even though that's not guaranteed either.
They're not guaranteed. I shouldn't say that.
Please don't, because you don't want to be like me, please.
No, they're not guaranteed. I'll say they're more consistent and they're more predictable. How about that?
They're more loving. No, I mean, at the end of the day, you'll hit what you're looking for in some ball python clutch. You may go fucking, 1 for 6 on sex ratios, but you're gonna hit something, and that's the thing, and it's gonna live for the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
And for instance, to go back to, and Socrates will fucking relate to this, and I'm sure a lot of other chondro breeders relate to this, but the number one fucking snake out of the clutch just not making it.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about the albino.
Yeah.
You hatched out an albino this year.
Yeah.
Which, didn't I call you were going to hatch an albino? Didn't I call? I predicted that. And what else did I predict?
You did.
The basins. I think I predicted the basins. Anyways, we won't go there. But anyways, but okay. So the albino, man, very, congrats, but unfortunate, fortunate, whatever. But it happened.
Yeah.
But, what is it about those special snakes just not making it? Just not being able to push through?
Yeah, who knows, man? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. It's like this year I was telling you, even with ball pythons, the best thing that I could hatch this year would have been an ultra male clown, or maybe an ultra male clown with a codom gene on top of it.
Right.
And out of whatever, I'm up to 45 ball python hatchlings so far, and the only one that is not eating so far is the male ultra male clown that's sold.
Which how was this sold? You were not trying to sell this thing.
Well, I was trying to sell it,
but not at that point.
Not at that. I don't ever the golden rule is you never sell anything.
Don't count something. Don't count your
eggs before they hatch. Right.
basically.
So this snake, I don't like taking money on snakes before they're established, before they're ready to go. And anyway, this guy who I won't say his name, super nice guy. Met him at Tinley. Got a great ball python collection, really cool stuff. He just really wanted it. He bought a bunch of double het stuff from me last year. He really needed the male. So I told him, I was like, all right, the male's yours. We agreed on the price, whatever. I was like, let me get him feeding before you send any money. And
sure enough, he sent the money.
So, yeah, he was like, "Oh, I'll just go ahead and pay you." I was like, "No, I don't. Don't worry about it." He already had my PayPal, and he just sent them out. I woke up one morning, and
sneaky bastard.
Check my phone. If we can get out of bed, what are getting emails or whatever.
Do you think he probably thought you're all about politics and you were gonna fuck?
I don't know. I think maybe he was a little worried that I would that somebody would offer me more money for it. But man, like if I tell you, like if I said, man, MJ, this snake's yours,
it's yours.
It's yours.
Where does bond?
Yeah. Whether somebody offers me more money for it or not.
Right.
But maybe he was afraid somebody was going to try to like outbid him or whatever, so he wanted to like lock the deal up.
Right.
And of course, now he made it to where the thing doesn't eat. So.
Right. Go figure. It's gonna eat. I can tell you right now that the snake doesn't look like it's malnourished or anything. It's just taking
it's gonna come around. It's just taking a sweet ass time.
Yeah, that's all it is. So that's funny you mentioned that though about the dude, at the end of the day, like, I don't blame you. You have an awesome 9 to 5. Why would you want to just give that up? But I truly feel in my heart you would have no problem doing this as a full time, bro. But like you said, it's the risk factor. It's you vesting into everything,
right?
And going from something you're so good at already, right? You're already. Like you said, you got days where you don't want to go to work, but you're able to push through and go to work.
Sure.
There's some people who can't do that.
Yeah, right.
There's some people, dude. I'm one of them. Corporate America was not meant. Corporate America fucked with my mental health, dude. Because at the end of the day,
it's tough, man.
It's not easy.
It's tough.
And you got to be good at not pissing off the wrong people. And I pissed off anyone. I didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? That's how I was always in sales. But once you get into that management level, and it's about, caring about other people, which
sure.
I didn't give a fuck about other people until I came into this game and I met the right kind of people to make me want to love people. And that's just the facts. But at the end of the day, some people, they're better off investing in themselves versus a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's case by case.
Yeah. And like I said, for me, it's been a thing where I've been doing it for so long. And every year it just gets harder and harder to leave because, I'm advancing. The money gets better. It's a steady, it's a steady thing. Snakes are not steady,
Well, they're not. They're not a for sure thing.
Exactly.
Which steady, right?
Yeah. So
unless you got ball pythons, which goddamn, bro. I gotta give it to anyone who really. I don't know. Is there anyone on record who literally banked on chondros and is literally making a successful life on chondros?
Nah,
I don't think so.
Nobody. Greg Maxwell did it for a little while
and jumped off.
Yeah.
And now he's making sick ass guitars.
Yeah. Yeah. Trooper never really did it only chondros. He worked at the zoo and had also had chondros. Rico was the only one that I can think of,
right?
That ever was like, okay, this business is focused on producing chondros, and that's how I'm going to make my living. He's the only person he's the only person that I know of that has specialized to that level and been successful.
You think if shit really hit the fan, like let's just say, God forbid, your line of business was just went out. Like, let's just say all you had were the fucking snakes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you could possibly get chondros, like let's say half to where Rico had it, to where you could be producing that kind of capacity?
Yeah, man, it's all. Like if I had the 60 hours a week that I spend at my job to focus on this, there's no telling what you could do.
So somebody could cover your salary. We could have that.
Yeah.
All right. So whoever out there who's super loaded, come pay this guy just to fucking do snakes full time, and I guarantee we got a Rico back. I'm telling you. Matt, how much money you got? Come on. Matt's in construction, bro. I think we can take care of you. I don't know. We'll find out. No, man. Just because I don't know. We have there's Patrick Holmes out there. We have Bill Stiegel.
Yep.
I will say it's growing. As far as the people who are actually out there producing content. You have Garrett, fucking House of Blues. You know Garrett from Los Angeles.
Yep.
Who have the Womaniacs.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, what do you think of that guy's shit, bro? Like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, next level.
Next level shit.
Blue stuff, right?
Real blue stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one thing that I've never really gotten into the blue chondros. I mean, I've had a few, but they've always just been like I like high yellow. I prefer high yellow better.
But you're also a visual breeder, like meaning like you breed what you like to see.
Sure.
Like you look at a good snake,
yeah.
Like you put two good snakes together versus like, oh, I need a Biak and a Biak, or like, you know, localities don't mean shit.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You're completely just good snakes together.
Yeah, I mean, every snake I have in this, there's no way you could
determine what
species. I mean,
because it's all been fucking generations.
30 years ago, they were Morelia, you know, fucking
Verdes, fucking
culture, whatever they are, whatever. Like, I honestly, I can't even tell you what the new subs. I'm embarrassed to say I can't name the new chondro subspecies.
You should be embarrassed if Steven was sitting right here, but Steven's not here. Steven's asleep right now, so we're good.
Yeah, I know Poulter only because I joke on Gary Scavino with his
right. But even Morelia Verdes is not a common species name no more, right? Or they don't call them that no more. Am I right? I think
that is still a species for I'm sure somebody on here.
Somebody will. Who would speak up on this?
I think they are a species still for like maybe the southern form, and then there's Azurius, which is the northern ones, and then I think they've been further subdivided. You know, from there.
Right.
So I know Viridis and Azurius, but I don't know any of the other ones. I don't even know if they're subspecies or full species or what. That's just not my, like the natural taxonomy side of it is just not something that doesn't like get me super excited. Right. You know, for me, these snakes are not ever going back into the wild. I could see if it was like a zoo situation where you want to show
putting shit back into the fucking wildlife.
Well, either that or like if you're at a zoo and you want to show this is what these animals really look like in the wild. Like right. That's not what I'm trying to do. You know, like I'm not trying to.
It's not like you're trying to work with venomous or something.
Yeah. I'm not trying to keep these animals like they are in the wild. Like right. I want them to look like I like what I want.
Oh,
there
here comes Jay. Here
Gary,
comes GS.
Gary with the answers.
With the goddamn explanation.
And there's our Arus and Marukis. Okay.
So what do you mean? Just those specific localities are Viridis? So not Biak's not that doesn't make any sense.
No, I think Biak is maybe Azurius. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me.
But nobody really gets that nerd out about that.
Oh, people do.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You ever been on a chondro forum?
No. 100%. I could barely handle a Facebook chondro
group on Facebook.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to the chondro Facebook group that does not delete my posts. I appreciate you. Fuck, because there's one out there that does. It's pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. Fucking weirdo. Anyways, but okay. So I have to say,
Azurius or Biak. Yeah, I was right.
And only Gary. Hey, real quick, guys, I will recommend Gary Scavino's YouTube channel. Is probably one of the most he's not a YouTuber, right? But the shit he puts out is probably some of the most knowledgeable, informative shit you could really add to your day-to-day with the Boreals. So please do me a favor, go to Gary Scavino's YouTube channel and fucking subscribe to it. You can thank me later on it. But dude, man, I told Gary when I saw him at Tinley was like, bro, good job on putting out YouTube shit because nobody else at his level of fucking keeping is doing YouTube.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like you doing YouTube. Like honestly, I feel like you should hell do YouTube, but YouTube is hard. Like, bro, like you saw what I did with the vlogging, like the fucking annoying. All right, you ready, Marcial? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's hard.
And that's recording's the easy part. The tedious part
is the editing. Yeah,
that's the bitch part. So the fact that Gary has been well involved in this game for quite a while, and he's still putting himself out there on YouTube. It's really worth checking out his channel and subscribing.
And he's a funny dude. So
he's fucking hilarious. Not even trying to be funny. He's funny. Like
he tries.
You think? I think he's just naturally funny.
He's naturally funny, but he tries.
Okay, cool. Well, there's people out there that try really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see Gary trying. Like maybe it's because of the way he answers. I don't know. He's just You just gotta check out his channel.
I've known Gary almost as long as I've been doing this. We met when I was living up in the Northeast, and I think I met him at like the White Plains, New York reptile show back in, I don't know, 99 or something like that.
Right.
So he's been in it for, just as long as me or longer. And, kind of a similar deal as far as just being in the, being into green trees for so long.
And then I'm just curious, how did you and Gary cross paths?
So I think so back in the day, there was a kingsnake.com green tree python forum. And, we'd kind of seen each other's names there. And then I met him at the White Plains, New York reptile show. We met in person there.
What's a New York reptile show like? Because
you got to remember this.
Law, or is this back then?
This is like 20 something years ago.
It was different.
98, then. Whatever that is.
So they had ticks and shit. It was more lack. Excuse me.
No, like the East. Like so, when I lived in Connecticut, there was a bunch of good shows. Like there was, Hamburg, PA. I'm sure you've heard of that.
I've heard it. Hamburg's still going off.
Hamburg. There was Pottstown, PA had a show. One of the best shows in the country was at the time the Mars show, Mid-Atlantic Reptile Show. It was in Baltimore, and it was so their thing back then was it was a captive bred only show, and they were like real strict about
no imports.
No imports.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
Wow. And those shows were pretty packed. Like those.
I mean, it's not like Tinley. It was a quarter the size of Tinley, if that.
Was there a specific species there, or was it like almost like a wide range?
A lot, yeah. Ball pythons were, they were already popular back then, but it was the ball
also
python
heavily imported too.
The ball python industry at that point was still, I'm going to say, kind of in its infancy. So you had clowns, you had albinos, you had pieds, ghost, I'm trying to think what else. Albino, clown, pied, ghost. Like when I first got back, like my post college, so got back into it out of college, went to Daytona for the first time it was in Orlando. So I think it was probably like 98 or something like that.
Yeah.
Shit, where was I going with that? What were we talking about?
I just remember 98.
Totally lost my train of thought there.
Dude, I'm not the only one, okay? And Marcial's a successful motherfucker. So whatever, dude. Whatever.
Yeah, and I forgot where I was going with
Socrates
that.
Over there. Hey, MJ, you should probably stop smoking pot. You forget everything. Well, wait. Oh, actually, never mind. But do you remember that? What was it? Oh, yeah, Socrates telling me I should stop hitting dabs on the side of the podcast.
Yeah, I remember he was like, he's
like, oh no, he's like, oh wait.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? No, I'm like, no, keep talking. No, I'm like, why wait? Because you'll forget. Which honestly, he's right. Like when I'm smoking, I kind of do forget about what's happening. So
that was funny.
Shout out to Socrates. But wait,
so no, you were asking about ball python. Yeah, when ball pythons were still in their infancy. So when I first came back after college and got back into the game, I moved to Texas right out of college, and I went to a show. I was like looking in the fucking newspaper of all things, and it said this was like a Sunday. I got the newspaper, I was reading through it, and there was an ad for a reptile show.
Right.
And I was like, dude, I've never even fucking heard of a reptile show.
Right.
Like before college, there was no reptile shows.
Yeah.
Maybe
maybe
Daytona was a thing, but it was pre-internet, pre.
I know. I heard Daytona was the only thing. Like
that's
back then,
right.
like it was.
I did not know there was big. I didn't know about Daytona.
Brian Potter talks about Daytona opening up at 8 a.m. You walk in, there was a keg. Like you walk in and motherfuckers are getting hammered at 8 a.m. Like literally getting fucked up. Like at Daytona, 8 a.m. Imagine that shit at a reptile show. Like that's that shit. That's like walking into a reptile show now and see motherfuckers hammered, which you have to wait to the U.S. ARC auction to see that.
So when I got into it, like came back, pieds were like 35 to 40K for pieds.
Jesus.
And like the big players were Bob Clark, Peter Call. Peter Call, man, he had it. I remember like one of the first Orlando's that I went to. So we keep saying Daytona,
So you've
but
met him
it
before.
was actually Orlando. Yeah, I've met him before.
So are all the Rockstar stories true about that guy? Like, is he really?
I don't know him that well. I knew a lot of he was from Maryland or
Right,
from
right.
Baltimore,
East Coast
Virginia, DC area, which happens to be where a lot of Chondro people are from.
And even Ed's from Maryland.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard all the stories about him. You know,
Me too.
Just being like, you know, not
stories that give me chills. Like, I'm just like,
yeah,
dude,
like I want to be Pete Call.
Yes, you know? I want to be. I actually want to just be around him at that moment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because if it's one thing if it's one person who has stories about fucking Pete Call, it's fucking Brian Barczyk. You know what I mean? Barczyk.
Oh yeah, but so back when Barczyk was big. I mean, I remember seeing him at shows. Like I don't know Brian very like super well. I mean, obviously,
that should change. I really want Brian and Marcial to meet, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I know him obviously from his YouTube and from, you know, the Reptarium and all. I've never been to the Reptarium, but, you know, just I know him from his social media presence. But him and Laurie had a big table. Like I remember they had like albino hognose back when they were, you know,
barely out.
He always had a really nice big display like at Orlando or Daytona where you get like walk in and he had like, you know, tables and then like a table like an island in the middle with, you know, he always had a bunch of snakes. So I remember back when that was kind of his focus, you know. Pete Call, like I said, Pete Call is a big player. Bob Clark, who's still in the game, I think.
No, he's still in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Bob Clark, you know, I've been to his tables and I've seen his stuff, you know, and, you know, we talked about this, you know, I think when I flew in yesterday, but Bob Clark was a part of those big names that like you hear like kind of like shit about, you know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah.
I've heard stories of like Bob Clark of having this and that, but I've seen his tables, everything seems fine. But like I feel like Bob Clark's a part of that era that was one of those big names doing things when nobody else was.
That's right.
But still carried it to this day.
Yeah, yeah. He went out, he went big, and I'm pretty sure he made a lot of his early money. He took a big chance and like I want to say he invested in like one of the first albino berms.
Oh no, that's what it was. It was the albino berm. And so, you know, albino berm was for Barczyk too. That was the first I think, what did he say? $18,000. And he was 18 years old when he bought that snake. It was like his first most expensive investment. I could be wrong about the price, but I know it was albino berm.
What's crazy is that you know, you think about how much money you can spend on a snake, and you know that 18 grand for Brian think about how much that has made with
he probably already had something else in motion to pay for that 18 grand. You know
but think about how much
it's done for him,
what the return on that was.
Right. But that's why it's, you know, that's, you know, as much as I want to fucking say ball pythons is a walk in the park, the return you get on a ball python is a fucking walk in the park. Like, it's nuts. Like, what you could really get if you're doing it right.
Yeah, it costs just as much to breed a $500 pair as a $50,000 pair, right? Same amount of time,
same shit,
same amount, everything. You keep them the same. You breed them the same
results.
But it's just how much money do you have to comfortably? Like, I don't suggest to anybody, despite that it, you know, it can be somewhat easy money sometimes,
right?
But I wouldn't suggest to anybody to like overextend yourself. Like, don't like mortgage your house to buy a snake collection, you know, or don't go beyond your means. Like, don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Right.
But if you have the money and you know, like ball pythons are like better than the stock market, better than, you know, the returns that you can get are just, when you think about it, like I would never have thought growing up that I could even, you know, even though I don't do it full time, it's still a high, you know, large percentage of my income.
Right.
You know, what I do with snakes. I would never have thought.
And it's a big less part of the work that you do. I mean, because you got to understand, as far as like ball pythons is your biggest return for everything that you do
right now,
especially with holdbacks. Well, because you're not selling anything.
That's right. That's right.
But then, like, let's talk about establishing and stuff. Like, you may be producing more ball pythons, but the work you spend establishing a ball python is nothing compared to what you would have to put in on a whole clutch of chondros.
That's right.
Or even a litter of basins. Like, even though basins are easier, it's still not just easy as tossing in a fucking hopper I'll see you tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it's the name of the game of some things.
That's right.
Which leads me to my wrap-up question before we get into the hot seat questions, because Marcial apparently has never had hot seat questions, and I got some.
Did we not? I can't remember if we did hot seat.
I don't know, but
questions last time.
regardless, we're gonna do them again anyways because I'm excited about them. But let's talk about somebody who, no matter what the case is, financial is not an issue. They got the money. Right?
Okay.
They got the money. They got the heart. They want the snakes, right? But they don't know exactly. Like, I'll make an example, right? A lot of people feel like just buying certain high-end snakes give them that that reputation that they're going to be something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what can somebody do who's investing so much into ball pythons that could set them on the right path to, once they start producing ball pythons, they're going to be able to get rid of them?
I would say look for what you think would go well together, like combos that would appeal to you,
right?
And ideally those would be combos that not a lot of other people, because there's so much competition out there. You ideally would want, if somebody wants the snake, they have to come to you because nobody else has it. Right. That's the best spot to be in, right?
Find your niche.
Find your niche. Find genes or combinations of genes that not a bunch of other people have or are working with.
Be different in a way.
Be different. Set yourself apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stop making repeat Kabelka shit. Like, Pompey's already Pompey's. Find something else.
Yeah, Justin's awesome.
Right,
I mean, like he's.
But Justin's Justin for a reason.
On top of the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Justin keeps making his own shit.
He's the leader of the industry, so
Right.
you don't want to be chasing him, right? Because you're
chasing a never-ending dream.
Yeah, you're never gonna catch him,
right?
But you could do something a little bit different, and you could almost surpass him. Not overall, but on that particular project.
On your project.
That's right.
Right, because like I said, Justin has a road on his road, and if you just tweak something to the right, that road could just be as long as his.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's up to you to determine where you want to take that road. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I do see a lot of people coming in and investing in the high snakes, but it seems like their projects are exactly what are already happening right now.
Sure.
Which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Pompey's are amazing. Batman clowns or whatever, Batmans are amazing. But even those things are coming down in price.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not really setting yourself up in an advanced level.
Not only that, but I mean, if you think, the price this year.
Oh, you never know next year.
In 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of people that are
making that shit,
chasing the same things that he's, that
which means it's more available.
That the industry leaders are doing. So I would even say, don't even necessarily follow the industry leaders, because
I don't want to be goofy, but follow your heart.
Yeah, you got to follow your heart, man.
Follow your heart, please. Yeah. All right, man. Listen, I don't want this to end because I've been having a fucking amazing time. Matt, you've been having an amazing time since we've been here. Yeah, Alabama's a shit.
I love Alabama.
Barbecue food? Okay. Oh, don't get mad at me, Texas. Don't get mad. Listen, there's a scoreboard. Barbecue versus Alabama versus Texas. Alabama 1, Texas 0. And I don't want to blame you, Bill Stiegel or Patrick Holmes. I think I could blame Patrick Holmes because the last Texas barbecue joint that I ate at was recommended by, say that louder, by who? Patrick Holmes. So that being said, Alabama barbecue is where it's at. It is fucking bomb. It is delicious. Alabama barbecue is where it's at. Thank you so much. Let's get into these hot seat questions.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Hot seat questions for my man, Red Mountain Herps, by the way. All right. I'm not going to go easy on these hot seat questions. Shit. I'm going in hard as fuck right now, okay? And I don't know if you know who JP, JP Reptiles is from Canada?
Yeah.
Real nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
But could be really annoying too. So don't be JP when it comes to hot seat questions because he likes to explain every fucking answer.
Yeah, you just want one.
Just shoot
word.
it out, please, okay? Because we ain't got time for this shit. Time is money.
I got you.
All right. So hot seat questions for Marcial Mendez, Red Mountain Herps. Here we go. Frozen thought or live?
Live.
8 cut or no cut?
No cut.
Red or yellow Neo?
Oh, red.
Spray or no spray?
No spray.
Yay import or boo import?
Boo.
Straight bake or no bake?
Straight bake or what?
So we're talking about incubation here.
Yeah.
Straight bake or no bake? I mean, straight bake or no straight bake? Excuse me.
Straight bake.
Straight
Yeah.
bake.
Straight bake.
Straight bake. What temps?
87.
It's 87. Did we answer this to miss or not to miss?
To miss or not to miss?
Okay, to spray or not to spray?
No spray animals. How about that?
What the fuck does that mean, Marshall? Do you spray?
I spray the substrate, but I don't spray the animals.
So you do spray.
I do
just not directly.
Not directly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's more like water. I would say water. I don't
Okay.
spray them, but I water them.
You're being a JP right now. Stop. Just kidding. Sports or no sports?
Sports.
Baseball or football?
Football.
Alabama or
Oh, come on. Is that even a question? Fuck Alabama.
Auburn?
Auburn.
Auburn, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen or Sammy Hagar? Like, you mean like Sammy Hagar Van Halen or Sammy Hagar solo Sammy Hagar?
I'm meaning Van Halen or Sammy Hagar. Like Sammy Hagar. There's Sammy Hagar and there's Van Halen.
Well, Sammy Hagar was also in Van Halen.
Exactly. Is it Van Halen and Sammy Hagar or is it just Sammy Hagar? What would you prefer?
No, Van Halen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sublime or Nirvana?
Sublime.
Thank God. That was a close one. Eminem or Machine Gun Kelly?
Eminem. Neither, but Eminem.
But you would
if
say
I had
Eminem.
to pick, yeah.
Okay, cool. 80s music or 90s music?
80s.
Heavy. He said that quick. Little word association. First thing to come to mind: milk,
Cow.
alcohol,
Miller Lite.
cocoa,
Butter.
stuck shed.
Soak.
Favorite wine?
I don't drink wine.
Instagram trolls.
Instagram trolls. I love Instagram trolls.
What has to go forever? And I mean forever. Instagram or Facebook?
Has to go forever? Like
Gone.
meaning like
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it?
It's never coming back. It's a piece of shit.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to say
Just say it. It rhymes with hook.
Facebook.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Facebook.
What a fucking remote session. Marcial Mendez, Red Mountain Herps. It's been a wrap. It's been amazing. Marcial, I will say you have a lot of supporters out there. A lot of people who fuck with you.
Everybody.
I'm talking about
Appreciate
the
it.
whole state of Texas. I'm talking about the whole country. You have fucking Europe. You have Canada. Bro, worldwide. What do you have to say to everyone out there who fucks with you and everyone who's been supporting you, everyone who's motivated off all your work?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Couldn't do it, without people who support me, from my wife who, helps support the day to day to people who help support by buying snakes.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, thank you all.
Cool. Thank you so much for tapping in. It's a wrap. I hope you guys are ready for next week because we're coming with more heavy trap talk with MJ. And then this Saturday, we have my man, Paul from Urban Constrictors. That's right. From the
Shout out to Paul.
Shout out to Paul.
I love Paul.
From the UK.
He's about to get it. He's about to get his heart. He's about to
Destroyed. Are you ready for disclosure? I got a disclosure for you. Green Tree Python's going to destroy your heart and you're going to cry very, very loud. I'm just kidding. You probably will cry, but remember, put those emotions on the shelf and shit on them because that's it. You ain't never going to have them. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. Have a wonderful night. Matt, end this podcast. We are done. Cheers. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.